What is up, fellow sickos? I am Dan Valley coming at you with the one, the only, the certified fantabulous Mr. Grant Hughes. Hardwood Knocks is gathered here today to finally, after teasing it in Discord for a while, apologies for the delays on our end, mailbag time. Here's the mail, Grant. It never fails. Are you a Blue's Clues kid?
No, but I do get the reference partly because if you're watching this, you can see the little banner at the bottom that does have the dog and a mailbox. It's all very thoughtfully done. I was not I think maybe I'm too old for Blue's Clues. Is that possible?
Me too, but for some,
Okay.
well, I was like on the fringe. It was on, and there was no other younger children in my house. Maybe it was on for me. I could sing a bunch of songs from Steve. That was the Blue's Clues guy, right?
I don't think I could do one. Should that be the episode? How many Blue's Clues songs can we get Dan to sing?
That's gonna be that's a stat padding thing for sure.
Then we can just rate the accuracy level of the lyrics. But great opportunity to discuss the mail. What I do think of Blue's Clues when you mention mail, so this feels like it's working.
There we go. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. I still want to stay on this topic. I think of Mr. McFeely from Mr. Rogers, who was the mailman on that show. Odd name in hindsight, as I say it. But he would deliver the mail to Mr. Rogers and they, just have a chat with him. That's
Mr. McFeely sounds like an adult's handle on the Roblox chatting app or something. I remember Mr. Rogers. I don't remember any of the other people's names that were on that show.
What do you remember about Mr. Rogers?
The neighborhood song where he'd just be taking his shoes on and off and getting which is all kind of like, why is he getting sort of undressed as part? He seemed like show was super chill, but I'm not sure I entirely. And he was changing his sweater vest, right?
He would have to switch into a sweater. I think he would change from not wingtips, but like dressier shoes into sneakers, I think. And okay. He's got to wind down. It's been a long day at the office for whatever Mr. Rogers does at the office. I think that's the idea. You're going to get the looser, cooler Mr. Rogers at home when he goes sweater and sneakers. I think that's.
Did he have?
I'm sure someone can tell us.
The party sweater, like what was the party sweater versus the business sweater?
It would be a great bit if he just came in and changed into exactly the same sweater, but it was like a different one, and then changed into the exact same shoes. That's probably happened before. They just ran.
Isn't that basically? Do you remember the show Doug?
Sure. Oh yeah, his closet, right, with all the same clothes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm doing well. I'm happy to hit this mailbag finally. Some of these are what, a week or so old, but we
have a ton of questions because
they're all pretty relevant.
Yeah, they're all super relevant, but we have a ton of questions. We'll get to as many as possible because what happens, I guess, when you let it sit for a little bit, I think I teased this mailbag for 3 weeks. Normally we give a few days notice. So shout out to anyone who's been waiting for their question to be answered. I have questions, but they're my questions for you based off some of these news items that we have to tackle first before we dive in the mailbag. I'm going to begin here. Grant, are Giannis and the Bucks just a lost cause at this point? I'm assuming, in part because you quoted it in our prep doc, I'm assuming you read the Ramona Shelburne piece from ESPN.
Yeah. Just to recap for anyone that hasn't read it, I guess, would you say the thrust of it is that, or the new angle is that, oh, hey, this Bucks ownership situation is very weird and it's complicating what has already become a much too complicated Giannis endless trade saga, and the deal is that there's basically two, I don't even know what to call them, but it's Edens and Haslam get like 5 years as the controlling majority owner. I don't know what the exact terminology would be. And then after 5 years, it switches to the other guy and it goes back and forth. And this is effectively the same setup that Edens and Lazary had before or something like that. Anyway, it seems like, and then what the reporting from Ramona Shelburne indicates is that people around the league, it's the classic, we're not really sure who's making decisions over there. I don't know who to talk to type of thing that you hear when it's just a poor, org chart set up in terms of decision making. So that's all just adding a layer of complication to the Giannis stuff. Would you add anything to that sort of summary of the report?
Well, there's been the disagreement over shutting him down between Giannis and the organization too.
That precipitated this report, right? So do you take this to mean that like some of the disagreement about are we shutting him down or not is not just Giannis has an opinion and the team has one. It's the team might have more than one opinion on it, or they can't agree on it.
No, I think I don't understand. This really just feels like the most long, inevitable, drawn out divorce that we've seen when it comes to superstars in the NBA. And not one, there's been times where it felt media manufactured, because how many years ago was it Danny Ainge in Boston is planning around Giannis's availability? That wasn't Giannis incited or Bucks incited.
Mhm.
The past, ever since Damian Lillard was traded before Damian Lillard was traded to the Bucks, that's what this now feels like. And I took away more from the report from Shams that Giannis and the team are disagreeing over whether he should be shut down or not. Objectively speaking, the Bucks are going nowhere this season. So even if he was healthy, it would make sense to shut him down. However, as the Bucks, I think that's the right call. As the Bucks, you can't be surprised that Giannis doesn't want to shut it down for two reasons. One, there's tales of how they would have to lock him out of the gym to get rest, just floating around out there. And two, this is also part of the politicking of, well, we tried to make it work. I really wanted to play for them through the entire season. And so I don't understand how a scenario such as this was not discussed prior to the deadline when they decided to keep him. I'm not even saying this means they should have moved him midseason.
Yeah.
And finally, their stuff is clearly not copacetic, because not all of this should be leaking out. The actual disagreement about over whether he wants to be shut down, who is that information getting out there? Who is that helping? Nobody. And so it seems like there's just a lot of discord being sown behind the scenes, not to the point where there is this inbuilt animosity that can't be reversed, but it contributes to what are we even doing here, guys, feeling of it all.
Doesn't this report from Shelburne kind of it makes it easier to understand how Milwaukee has mismanaged the situation to the degree it has, because it's pretty clear that the quote that I put in the doc that like leapt out at me when I read it was, this is another executive. So that's the other thing, is a lot of the sourcing in this, some of it is direct, but a lot of it is other executives around the league giving their opinion on the situation in Milwaukee. And one of those was, they're not even close to being ready to make a decision like that, referring to the Giannis situation. And it's like, how is it possible that they're not, like, they should know, they should have like a whole decision tree like laid out where, will Giannis, if this, then this, if this, then that, then that, like, right? It should be so easy, because there's only so many potential outcomes here, right? He signs the critical one. Does he sign the max extension or not? And so if yes, I mean, I guess he's staying here then, and we have this other series of decisions to make. If no, obviously you trade him. Now, the article does seem to suggest that, like, if he doesn't sign it, we must trade him drum.
It doesn't suggest louder. It. One of them
someone says it.
Edens, right? Was one of them told ESPN that no, like he signs the extension or he gets traded. We can't afford to let this ride out.
Right.
And they're in theory,
they're
shit. Right. There's
shit. Like, of course, thanks. This is the first rational thing that's come out of the Bucks in a long time. But sorry, go ahead.
But isn't there even a disconnect with, like you said, the sources are coming from other organizations, but there's a disconnect between that line of thinking and everyone else believing they haven't even come close to like deciding or mapping out how this looks. I do think there has to be a level of if you want Giannis, it behooves you to put something like that out there. And we were both, I think, in support of, if you're the Bucks, based on the offers that we know are out there, the most intriguing of which at the deadline was what? If the Rockets, the Spurs, the Thunder weren't involved, the Hawks,
probably Golden State.
Those Golden State's picks. Yeah. We were in support of that offer. Will be there in the summer with probably an additional first round pick in there. So we were kind of in support of that. I'm really just at the point. It says at the end of the ESPN story, and this is the thing that I'm struggling with, is that the Bucks are going to try and do things that get Giannis to stay.
Yeah.
And what they mentioned specifically was, could they get other distressed was the word of what we're, it wasn't like disgruntled or get him an A1. It made it seem like, could they get a Ja Morant? That's not, they didn't mention a name. I want to be clear. that's what that felt like to me. And then that's even more of a, well, what are we doing here, folks, to me?
Right.
Because Ja Morant and Giannis, that's not it. And so I'm increasingly, it's not just this report. It's just all these seemingly little or avoidable occurrences. The cumulative effect of them all has me believing there's no way he's going to be back in Milwaukee next season. And the timing of the extension eligibility does make it a little weird because he technically can't sign it until October 1st. But if you're the Bucks, you need to push for a definitive answer well before. And if he won't even, I'm not even saying if he doesn't say no, if he equivocates, then you do have to move on. Because, and I'm not saying Giannis is wrong for equivocating or whatever, but this is what happened with Damian Lillard and the Blazers on steroids.
It is. And like, what I took from Ramona's article was that, or one of the things I took was that Giannis thinks maybe it was just reiterating or paraphrasing some previous quotes or reporting we've had, but it was essentially Giannis thinks it's time for a split, like was in there. And so if you're the Bucks, you need to be the ones to just pull the trigger at this point. I know I've vacillated, and I think we both have said, like, you know, it's cool to have a one-team superstar. Like, if Giannis wants,
it's going to be 50 plus years before you get another one like this.
You're never getting another guy like this. All that. I think just getting some distance from the trade deadline part of it, and even last offseason, it's just so abundantly clear that this should have ended a long time ago. Like, this probably should have ended like before the Dame trade. Even you could make the case. Now that would have been the classic, like, getting out early is better than getting out late, because that would have felt a little early had they moved Giannis then.
Because I liked the Dame trade. Did you at the time? I can't remember what you thought.
Recognized, like, if in theory he gives you the solve to your late game offense stuff that gets too predictable and you're giving it back on the other end. Like, I guess I was open to it. But now it's just, you can't, for example, make a bunch of moves to keep Giannis happy and hope that that's what gets him to sign the extension, because then he still might not. And even if he does, this team's not going anywhere. I don't care what just distressed assets like Cam Thomas. How's that going? Like that, we're gonna keep going to that well. So I think you need to just move him. I don't even think, like, yeah, I guess you offer him the extension, but even that is now just like, can't we just call it? I don't understand.
Oh, if you're the Bucks, you wouldn't want to extend him?
I don't even know, man. I guess I'm just fixated on this has to end. Here's the other, I wanted to ask you. So you know how the example that jumps to mind first in situations sort of like this, but lower stakes, is the way that we used to rip on the Raptors for not trading Anunoby and Siakam as soon as they could have. Even a lesser version is the Bulls with, like, Kobe White and Vooch and Dosunmu. We harped on them for just move them now because their value goes down. Is the Giannis situation, there's other factors that complicate it, like how meaningful he is to the city, the fact that he won a championship, the fact that, like, maybe he wants to be there, but also maybe it's not as cut and dried. But does some of the same logic, or should some of that same logic apply in our criticisms of the Bucks, where it's just you're waiting too long? Forget all the other stuff. It's you've got this asset that is approaching free agency. In most other situations, we would be all over them for not moving him at this past deadline. I wonder if some of that logic just should start applying more cleanly.
I think it could. What I keep coming back to, though, is Giannis can be a one-man contender unto himself, basically. And Siakam and OG Anunoby.
Do you think so? I wonder about that too.
You don't think Giannis could be the best player on a title contender right now?
I think he could. I think
I think the question then ends there. It's not because you wouldn't say, I think OG Anunoby could. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
But
things have to be for him versus, like, there's a lot of other players that people would categorize as, like, lesser players that I think it would be much easier to build a championship contender around. But I take your point.
And so I think just him being that mega star, that Siakam and Anunoby, the levels they've never reached, I understand the attempts to do everything within their power to keep him and try and wedge this window open. And it's, look, even the wave and stretch of Dame, my analysis was this is reckless. I don't think it's going to end well, but I kind of respect it. And that's where I'm at with what they've tried. People can criticize how poorly they've done in the draft. It's easy to criticize the Dame trade now, even easier. A lot more people, to be clear, were criticizing what they did with Miles Turner then. At the same time, they have exhausted everything possible each time getting Giannis on board. Even when he hasn't, this past summer was that inflection point of he's not going to sign an extension now. That's not what they're doing. But there was the report about him being interested in the Knicks. They were able to convince him on coming back for this year. I respect that, but I think now that we're back at this next extension eligibility, this is where that criticism should start to kick in. And I do believe probably this past summer was the first real summer that the critiques that you're talking about, that's maybe that I believe though that's when this could be applied, that type of logic. But before then, why wouldn't you try to go get the Damian Lillard trade if it got Giannis happy? And on paper, it was Middleton had not really, the wheels hadn't fallen off just yet. We needed to trade Chris Middleton for Kyle Kuzma, DEFCON 1 levels. And the final question I want to ask you on this is, where are you? And I know this is a lot of third party stuff, but when you hear Giannis saying things such as, I can't control what my agents say, or in the Ramona Shelburne piece, there was the quote, the sourced quote, not from Giannis himself, that he told Drew Holiday they really missed his defense after he left. But the reason you moved Drew Holiday is because Giannis is applying pressure on the Bucks to do X, which is well within his rights. Is there a level of duality here that Giannis deserves criticism for? Call it duality, call it ambiguity, or no? Do you not assign? Because I'm honestly asking because I don't know. I tend to place most of the blame at Giannis. This is his career. He should be able to do what he wants. But there does seem to be an interesting duality with, there's been so many reports, as Shelburne pointing out, multiple times, he's apparently informed the Bucks that he believes it's time to part ways. That's not what, however you feel about the national media or Shams Charania, that's not being put out there multiple times without there being some real smoke. And by the way, Shams is not the only one who's put it out there.
Right.
Stein, Jake Fisher have all had that stuff in the ether as well.
I think so. It's a little complicated. I do think if the situation is Giannis, it's like the reduced, simplified version is Giannis wants to leave and has wanted to for a long time, but he will not. He doesn't want to be the bad guy in the situation that demands a trade. If that's really what this is, then he absolutely deserves a huge share of the blame, because suck it up, man. Just do it. If you don't get to say winning is the Nike. You don't get to say winning is the most important thing to you and then behave this way. Because if that were true, you would recognize that you are not as likely to win here. And you've already if you're saying you want to leave, you've decided that you're not going to win here and you want to go somewhere where you can. But if you're not willing to publicly say that and just get the wheels moving, which he could, the second he says, I want to be traded, this thing ratchets into fifth gear and he's gone pretty soon. Right. Or at least sooner than we wouldn't be in this situation. So he's culpable if that's the case. Where this gets complicated is I won't speak in the collective we, but I definitely get caught up in thinking about stuff like this at a remove and saying if I were in this situation, well, there's a lot of reasons I'm not in this situation that Giannis is in. And one of them is because I don't have irrational self-confidence. And for him, he must.
Your contract with Hardwood Knocks also extends through, I think, 2050 something. So you're just locked up.
On some level for him, he can look at a shit roster and maybe talk himself into, you know what, we have a shot because I'm here and I'm great. And thinking that has gotten me this far. Why would I change up at this point? Right. I think we've talked about some version of this before, but I do think so much of what has made him successful is in his way now in terms of his makeup, where it's just all things are possible because I made it from nothing to this. I won us a championship. So yeah, I can look at a terrible setup and believe that winning is possible here. I think that is partly to blame for the stalemate situation. That said, yes, he does. Don't you think he deserves some blame here for if it is true that he believes it's time to break up, and he's not initiating the breakup, then he is worthy of blame.
I would agree with you, but if he's also informed the Bucks, that how would he have to present it to the Bucks?
He has to demand a trade.
So he has to him saying, "I think it's time we go our separate ways," doesn't count.
He could do it publicly. He could do the standard where it gets leaked. He just leaks it.
Maybe he doesn't want to get fined.
Okay, maybe. I'm not sure. He's hard up for cash.
If he was actively not requesting the Bucks were coming to him and they were checking in, and he's like, "No, I'm good," but then putting this stuff out that we're seeing now, the reporting has been consistently he's informed the Bucks this. So what more do you want him to go and throw a temper tantrum or something?
I'm saying there's blame to go around here. I don't think. I think he deserves some blame, and depending on how strongly he's indicated, like it shouldn't take, like, I don't know, it feels like there needs to be an official trade demand or something, and that's what'll get the Bucks to move, and that's stupid by them. Like that, he's done everything but, and so like the Bucks should have pulled the trigger a long time ago. So they're both worthy of blame. I think there's a tendency sometimes, we've kind of brushed up against this, to absolve Giannis of all of this. But I don't think that's reasonable anymore, if it ever was. I think they're both fucking this up, and it's dragged on for too long. And the solution is pretty simple. If uncomfortable, you just trade him at your next opportunity, which is, I guess, probably draft night would be the move.
Do you think we're going to look back? Because I think part of what could inoculate the Bucks against criticism is if we look back on the trade and say, okay, that was a good haul under the circumstances. Do you think it's more likely that's what we're saying, or do you think it's more likely we get reverse sticker shock of, that's what all he got. That's all it costs to get Giannis?
Well, I mean, the fact that it's gone this long and you have the same concerns that always crop up in this situation, which is to say he's got 1 year left on his deal. So the offers will be worse than if he had 3, right? I think I still got to believe it's going to be a haul. I do think that while we've gone back and forth on the idea of like maybe there's a better offer over the summer than was available at the deadline, it's also possible that the offers are worse, isn't it? Presumably teams are going to have more picks and stuff to trade, but it's not a given. So I don't know which way I'd lean on that. I guess what I'm certain of is the offers are worse, will be worse now, and were worse at this most recent trade deadline than they would have been a full year ago. I think you would have gotten more then. I mean,
and that's probably the first time to me that you, as the Bucks, you really should have sat down and thought about initiating it yourself, because it's really tough to initiate it when you're dealing with a top 5 player. We saw OKC wrote it out with Kevin Durant, and he was younger at the time, but they wrote it out with Kevin Durant. We didn't really criticize them for doing that.
That's true. Yeah, I would like to go back in time with the almost decade of experience we've got now, and wonder what I would have thought about all that then. I was just like, the Warriors are going to get him. That's all I care about. I don't care about any of the other angles.
Your bias is quite literally showing.
It's quite showing. I mean, if at this point, what are we trying? Are we going to try to hide this? No. I think the Bucks and Giannis are a lost cause, I guess, just to officially log an answer to the.
I didn't think we were going to spend 20 minutes on that.
Well,
this next question comes from Fuck You Injuries. Can the Pistons survive without Cade Cunningham, who has a collapsed lung, which, I'm sorry, that's one of the injuries where when you listen to or read the breakdowns and there's the average of, they come back in whatever days, it's 11 games missed on average or 12, but collapsed lung just sounds
awful.
So serious. And I'm not saying they overplayed it. The thought of when I saw collapsed lung, my immediate thought was, well, the Pistons season is over because Cade's not going to play again this year. But then you go back and you see, well, Terrence Mann only missed such. CJ McCollum came back from this twice. It's a collapsed lung.
Sounds bad. Anything that collapses in your body. That's really what it is. You could have what if you had a collapsed femur? That sounds bad. Collapsed, I don't know, kidney, bad. Collapsed
frontal lobe. Seems like that might be pretty bad.
All of it seems not great. So this is, I mean, the angle we've harped on with the Pistons all season is like Cade has to do too much. They're vulnerable if they are, because there's one guy that creates shots for the offense, and now that guy's not going to be there. Can they survive without him? Yeah, if that means, playing 500 for the rest of the regular season, it rules them out of winning a playoff series. Probably. I don't know if it's a one versus whoever comes out of the play-in. Maybe they get that. Like I don't know. I'd
No,
have to look at the
I
matchup.
mean, if they end up facing without Cade, the Hornets or the Hawks, like no, they're not beating those teams without Cade.
I think that's probably right. I would say though, so they've got their most frequently used non-Cade lineup, which basically just has Dennis Jenkins in his spot alongside Thompson, Robinson, Harris, and Jalen Duren. It's like a plus 30 per 100, and the offense is good. The defense is great. It's 138 possessions, so all the grains of salt. But
Right.
there's some proof of concept, I guess. And we like Jenkins. I like Jenkins. I like him as a third guard, not like your primary initiator.
If he could put
Um,
together like 3 or 4 consecutive games of strong, okay, this guy is something.
I mean, he sort of did earlier in the year, right? He had his introductory run really was him playing a
It
huge
just
role.
it shifts the entire like burden when you have to just go up against every team's best units because Cade's not all of a sudden
Right.
there. And
Right.
I've started to wonder, they did beat the Wizards. So I watched uh the first 3 quarters of Wizards Pistons,
Condolences.
and I thought we were gonna see more. There was a ton of paint touches for Jalen Duren. There was way too many post ups for Tobias Harris. I don't think that's gonna be the solve. I really wanted to see more of, and they had gotten into this before because Asar Thompson's even just coming back from a sprained ankle
Mhm.
injury, but he had been handling the ball more, and I want to see him in more of those traditional situations. Like he's going to force turnovers, create chaos, play make in transition. Or we see a lot of the stuff where it's Jalen Duren will set a screen for Duncan Robinson. Duncan Robinson passes to a cutting Asar Thompson, who then finds Duren, or plays like those. I want to see if can you do more handoff stuff specifically with Asar Thompson? What can you do more of that in the half court? Surround him with as much shooting around him and Duren as humanly possible and see what that
Mhm.
looks like. He is a really, and I don't know that I brought this across. Mort and I just did extensions, rookie extensions we're most fascinated by this summer, broken down by the East and West. I don't think I gave Asar enough credit for, like, he is a really smart and just really good passer. And maybe this is a chance for him to tap into that. But then I'm also sometimes wondering, well, how much of that was predicated on sometimes like Cade is in transition off the ball, or like deep ceiling when they're in transition,
Mhm.
and that's opening stuff up for everyone. I I'm I'm pessimistic on what the Pistons. Jalen Duren he's like in the 92nd percentile of self-created shot making, but this is also the second lowest share of his career of his attempts at the rim that are going unassisted. There's a level of dependence. Jalen Duren can do a
For
lot
sure.
with the ball, so I'm
Mhm.
fascinated to see more of that. But everyone on this team is so dependent on not just Cade Cunningham getting them the ball, but Cade Cunningham taking and making some ridiculously tough shots to kind of keep the offense humming. If he comes back, I they'll be fine because Cade Cunningham is that good. This team is good. And what they could do
Mhm.
when Isaiah Stewart's healthy defensively, I think in the interim, while he's out for however long he's out, the player, I know everyone's gonna look at Jalen Duren. I'm gonna be most interested in what Asar Thompson looks like, because there might be more playmaking meat on the bone there with him.
And you know what? If there is, then it should probably change how the Pistons play, because I think it's very hard to justify taking the ball out of Cunningham's hands, but I just don't think it's a sustainable way to win a bunch of playoff series to have him in such a ball dominant role. If you have somebody else that maybe can do some of that, yeah, I guess really I found myself trying to come up with reasons why they'll be okay, at least for the regular season, and the playoffs is a different thing. But I feel like that's sort of like there's some cognitive dissonance there, because all season the knock has just been he has to do too much. And when you lose that guy, you have to bend pretty far over backwards to say that it's going to be okay. It just doesn't seem realistic.
What if he comes back? I know he's not missing a ton of time, but what is recovery from a collapse? When you're talking about CJ McCollum, I guess would be the best analog, because someone who does kind of play on the ball, but
Mhm.
has never been the number one option for it. Because who's if you look at the teams, in how many teams are more their stock on being a real team, a contender, are predicated on one player more than the Pistons?
Yeah, I mean, you can't even
The
really say like
Spurs with
Luka
Wemby?
yeah, right. If you take this guy away,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean that's the only one. I mean Jokic would be another one, but yeah, it's up there. It's
And even Jamal Murray, the way he's playing this season, like Jamal Murray and Aaron Gordon would be the. Duran's been really good this year, but you're feeling better about Jamal Murray in
Oh,
Cade's
yeah.
absence than you are Duran. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
This does confirm though, we got to get rid of the 65 game rule. I saw a lot of this bugs me when but it shouldn't. And that's why I don't dunk on it anymore when I see it like if you look at the last MVPs, like they've all played in the equivalent of 65 games or more. And I'm not talking about MVP. If someone plays in 63 games and the voters vote them to win MVP, give them the license to do that. That's why if you don't trust the voters, don't have them be voters. I'm more so talking about all NBA specifically. We're going to get some weird ass teams this year, potentially. There's the Anthony Edwards has played 58 games and he's going to be out for another week and a half. Will he get to 65? Cade even falls I think he's 1 or 2 games short of if this were a season ending injury, he could have played in 62 or something. He's at 61. And I think one of his games was under 20 minutes, so it wouldn't have helped. Look at everyone else who's automatically, like Kawhi Leonard, or not automatically, but Kawhi Leonard, I think only has 2 games left. Evan Mobley, only 2 games left that he can miss. Wemby, 2 games left. Jokic, 1 game left. And then think about everyone else who, by virtue of these major injuries, like Tyrese Halliburton, Jayson Tatum, aren't eligible, or people who are just flat out ineligible. Steph Curry's not going to be on this list. Then it's like, what are we doing here, folks? And at least give the freedom. I know this is a Zach Lowe spiel. If you're not going to give it across all NBA, like make it, Zach Lowe says third team, make it second and third team. If you need the first team to have some arbitrary, like these guys played, sure.
Yeah. I just think it's not always the most persuasive angle to me in this type of argument, and this argument specifically, the idea of like, on some level, you want the awards to sort of tell the story of the season. You know, you want to be able to look back and see who won MVP, who was all NBA first team, who won defensive player of the year. And in a lot of years, you'd look back at this one and say, if it's, let's say the worst happens and like Wemby misses enough games and Jokic and Cade now and Ant and like all these other guys. So your all NBA first team is just, it's insane. It's like, it doesn't have 4 of the 5 best players, and MVP is who the fuck knows, right? Say Shea misses, he's further from the cutoff, but like it would create a situation where the awards are just like so completely non-representative of what happened this season. If Wembanyama theoretically doesn't have an award at all for anything this season, it's like, what else have we been talking about all year other than how great he is? Like, okay, so then the answer is like, well, just go look at the numbers and do your research and all this other stuff. You'll realize that this is the year Wemby popped, and that's why the Spurs were as good as they were. But like, I would like the awards to at least have some relationship to what happened all season and tell the story of the season. And we're getting much closer to, it's going to be misleading. You're going to think like, oh, I guess Wemby was overrated, or like, you know, it's just, it's going to create a situation where it's just, it's stupid. It doesn't make any sense.
All I will say is, for people who are all aboard the games played train, is that Tom Haberstroh has been doing this thing recently where he posts what his all-NBA team would be for players who have already appeared in 65 games since we're at the 70-game mark. That list, Grant, first team, beginning with first team, is rough. I think he is making, I don't know if that's his intent. I don't know, but he is making the most persuasive case of this rule needs to be thrown in the junk and never spoken of again.
Yeah. I've said it a million times. I think voters can make a decision between a player that played 67 games at level X and a player that played, just to really make it extreme, 60 at level Y, even 55. I don't know. Like, whatever does it for you, voters.
Do you know who stands to benefit from this Cade injury though a little bit? Is it makes it more likely Jalen Duran makes an all NBA team. And then if he becomes eligible for the 30% max, you don't get, if you give it to him as the Pistons, we're going to have some conversations, but it does give you the anecdotal ploy of going into negotiations. All right, but I'll take the 25% max.
Right. Which probably he shouldn't get that, but it'll feel like a steal because he could have gotten more. Yeah, it just, I don't know, unintended consequences, man. This was just an ill-conceived rule that continues to, I don't know, who's happy with this? Who thinks this is good? I haven't seen anybody like, great, we're getting the correct results because of the 65 game rule. I've not seen that argument.
I don't know. I guess when you're talking about MVP, but like people have said, if the games played have never been an issue for the MVP, then why do you need the threshold?
Right. Right. It's because of TV money, and they needed it for the last TV deal, and that's why they have the rule. That's what.
Speaking of money, Grant, I talked about this with Mort, but I like asking you questions about stuff. I respect your opinion at least 47% of the time. So,
it's moved
how
up.
do you feel? How do you feel about the news of the NBA is likely going to expand for the 2028-2029 season into presumably Seattle? And do you have any stray thoughts on the matter you wanted to get off your chest?
Definitely good for Seattle. Vegas, I could take or leave. It's just a weird place to have a sports team. It always is.
Teams keep going there though. The Raiders, and who's in the process of relocating there now? I already forgot.
The A's, yeah. Or the Athletics now. I don't think they go by the A's anymore. I don't have a lot of thoughts on it. I guess other than I'm happy that Seattle is going to get a team, because it's never good when a team gets ripped away, but that one really got ripped away. So that's a positive. The most compelling argument that I heard was it's reductive, but this is a decision that is not geared towards improving the product of NBA basketball as like an entertainment product, or it's not for the consumer so much. It's for money, and it's going to dilute talent and all that other stuff. So that's right. There will be 2 more bad teams. There'll be more bad basketball. The average talent level on each team will drop. That's not great. When you have a third of the league that's not trying right now, maybe more, that seems bad. But you got to follow the money, and it makes the league bigger and more profitable, and you get some TV markets in there, and that's the reasoning for it. So if you're trying to make the product better, this isn't what you do, I don't think, even through a long lens. So that bothers me a little bit, but this is the type of thing that I had already been convinced that this was going to happen. So this latest announcement is not, I'm not considering things anew. This has been like a 5-year thing where we assume this is going to happen.
I agree that it's not for the product, but I do think I tend to disagree with people who think they're saying there's not enough talent to support it, because there's a difference between how many key superstars are there right now versus are we talking about B and C level stars, or fringe stars or whatever. I recognize that, but I feel the importance, at least during this, the era that we're into now, the importance of having depth or a lack of weaknesses has never been more prevalent. And so I do think the NBA can handle expansion long term. That being said, you're absolutely right that I don't think that's the driving force. Whether it makes the league better, I think it could increase parity. But the two things, and I did talk about this with Mort, is you need to figure out more tanking prohibitions. I don't know what the answers are going to end up being, but you need to figure that out. You also, because the league is going to get worse then when you're diluting talent. And in previous teams coming into the league, they couldn't get these top picks for the first 2 years they were there. And the other thing, now I don't know if the new owners actually are in favor of this, because it limits what they need to spend after just dropping, between $7 and $10 billion this time on expansion fees. They only have 65% of the salary cap is a no. But if you want to actually encourage parity, or these teams not sucking for the first however many seasons of their existence, I would think they should have the full salary cap at their disposal, and then require them in the expansion draft to draft X amount of money, so they're just not going into free agency with, we have $100 million in cap space and we're going to use it.
Yeah, you don't want that. You don't want that balloon number out there that feels
that's rich coming from a Warriors fan.
Just the circle. 2016. What a time! What a time, Dan. Everything was possible.
Living proof.
That's funny. That's the very first name that entered my head when I said 2016.
No, know who's the first name? It's a first name this time because Mort brought him up. But do you know who's the first name that pops into my head, and I don't know why?
I want to guess. Nick Batum?
No. I thought that deal was a steal. I thought the Blazers were so foolish. that they didn't
Who
keep
else
him.
got a bunch of money? Mozgov is number one for me. Who comes to your
John
mind?
Mahinmi. That was
Oh my God. What did he get?
it was the Timofey Mozgov deal, basically.
He did not get that big of a deal.
I think it was
did he?
4 for 64.
Oh
and
my
wasn't that what
God.
Mozgov got?
That is what Mozgov
dou-
got. I did
I'll
not
double
realize
check.
Mahinmi got that much. That's insane. Man, what a great time.
What a time to be alive. Do you want to pick our first question that we'll tackle? And it's not how much did Jan Mahinmi make? And I think he actually might have even been in 2017 free agency. I'm going to go look that up now.
I think it should be. Okay, I had a couple from when we were very first. What is that? What is the?
Yeah. So all right, yeah, I'm gonna follow this through now, Grant. He got 4 and 64.
Crazy.
He signed it in 2016. That is so I was right. That's the.
I wonder if he was. Do you have his basketball reference up right now? Is that what you're looking at? No, that's probably Spot Track. I'm curious if he outproduced Mozgov over the life of that deal. I doubt it, because Mozgov was okay, wasn't he? After the fact.
Jan Mahinmi. I mean, so those were his last 4 seasons in the NBA.
Get your money, get out.
Yeah, he only had 1 season where he appeared because he was pretty banged up, but there was only 1 season where he appeared in more than 38 games.
Gotcha, man. All right, you've given me enough time to pick the question I want to pick. This is from Matty L, and he asks, "What is your greatest what if scenario in NBA history?" Now, I will concede that NBA history is probably riddled with like a billion really crazy what ifs in the early days that probably affected whether basketball as we know it like ever would continue to exist. Like there's definitely those kinds of things, gambling scandals and all that stuff, the ABA NBA merger stuff.
Yep.
All kinds of what if the Celtics weren't the team that like started playing African American players, or all this other stuff. I'm going a little more contemporary. The one that immediately jumped to me is, what if Michael Jordan does not take 2 years off in between winning 3 titles in a row twice? Because one of the chief GOAT arguments for him is that never lost in the finals. Are we then good? So 2 possible outcomes if he doesn't take the baseball break. 1, the Bulls win 8 straight championships, and we probably don't have anything approaching the debate between him and LeBron that we have right now. The other one is he loses in the finals once or twice, or doesn't make the finals or something, or has a major injury.
And the Bulls break up sooner. Yeah.
They break up sooner, or it's just he's got this 2-year window where, no, you weren't indisputably the guy that just could not be beaten. So I think like either way, that what if to me fundamentally changes 40 years of basketball discourse, probably.
Yeah.
Wow. That one to me was I have some smaller ones, but I'm curious where your head went.
So I thought I have another one, but I thought you were going to go here. This is my actual biggest what if. And maybe this is too contemporary because that's more contemporary than yours. What if the Warriors had traded Steph Curry to the Bucks?
That's on my list. That's one of my other 2 that I wrote down. Yeah, because
that's the most recent dynasty, and that the Warriors aren't happening without Steph. And then it's does Steph become Steph if he's on another team? And does that team go on to have a dynasty? Does he leave that team? I think about that trade at least half a dozen times a year, the trade that didn't happen, because there's all these inflection points and little moments that it's the decisions that you don't, or the moves you don't make that could determine everything. Even the Warriors not trading Klay Thompson for Kevin Love, which I was probably I don't remember my stance on, I was probably in favor of at the time.
Oh, I was. I 100% was. I absolutely
if the
was.
Warriors alone, what if David Lee never gets injured, paving the way for Draymond Green?
Here's the rotation. I mean, just to go with the trade that you talked about. So it was Monte Ellis or it was Steph, and there's been different reports all along, but it does seem like the divided Warriors decision makers, like it was a majority, but it was not unanimous, decided we got to keep Steph. There were definitely voices that said Steph should be the one to trade for Andrew Bogut, by the way, who was exactly the right type of player at the time for a team that needed a defensive centerpiece and a defensive identity, who was basically obsolete in the Warriors' best lineups in like 2 years because Draymond Green at center became the thing that made the Warriors what they were. So it's like they dodged the bullet by picking the right guy to trade for the guy that was the right piece at the time. And yet that guy still became something that like, well, this isn't part of our best lineup anymore. Injuries were a factor, but like the trickle down of that deal is wild. Because are the Bucks? Is Giannis on the Bucks? If Steph is there, and
Yeah.
that changes where they are in the draft. Maybe Giannis was far enough down in the first round that maybe they still get him.
And,
but like,
doesn't that?
who
And
knows?
what's interesting about that is, so your Jordan one. I'm not saying mine is better than yours, but with your Jordan one, Jordan still just goes down as no worse than the second best player.
Probably.
That happens.
Mm-hmm.
If Steph going to Milwaukee happens, isn't there a chance, we still need time to unfold, that we don't have two of what might be the consensus top 15 players in NBA history with those resumes? Because Steph is verging on top 10. Probably he's certainly in the top 15. Giannis is going to be there by the time he retires. So maybe he turns into Giannis wherever he goes. Maybe that's the flaw. But there's kind of do we not have a top, one of the 10 greatest players, 15 greatest players in NBA history resume that we ended up getting?
Mm-hmm. Well, you wonder, does Steph get the green light to just start shooting 200 more threes than anybody would shoot in a season?
And then what does the game look like today?
What's the game look like?
Is it, or do we view Damian Lillard as the vanguard of that play style, or does not even Damian Lillard play the way he does? And so what happens to players like, because Steph kind of, did we ever get to, Steph paved the way for a certain type of, you can't replicate Steph, but do we still get the Luka Doncic's and the Trae Youngs and the super ball dominant guys who take these unhinged LaMelo?
Yeah.
Future
James
MVP
Harden,
and NBA champion, LaMelo? Yeah.
There's a lot. Is there an arena in San Francisco? Like if I mean, it's a legitimate
now you're
question.
Speaking Joe Lacob's language.
Because the franchise value is basically Steph. So I think the entire organization is in a very different state if he's never there. That's a good one. What's Draymond Green's career look like if he doesn't have the perfect teammate, for his abilities? I don't think he has anything close to the reputation and career achievements that that's a good one. What about even smaller scale, the infamous KD toe on the line with Brooklyn 3 that was a 2? Because
are the Nets still together?
If that goes,
no way, right?
Probably not. Yeah, maybe that's why James it's a bad what if.
Sure. Yeah.
It's like life finds a way. KD and James Harden find a way to fuck up where they are.
Couldn't we just, even if KD and James Harden go full KD and James Harden after that scenario, do we have one of the most random one-off NBA champions in league history?
Right. Yeah. And then we'd be right. Totally. Because that would have been pretty close on the heels of the Kawhi and Toronto championship, which feels kind of similar. Really? That was a thing that happened? I think they would have broken up eventually just because that's what happens.
Yeah.
But they really might have won the title that year. That is an absolutely possible outcome for that team. And then you just imagine, okay, so it breaks up at some future point. Does Harden wind up with the Sixers and then the Clippers? Is he, or whatever the order is? Does Durant wind up with Phoenix of all teams? Does he go somewhere else and maybe he wins the title there, or it blows up differently? There's so many, I don't know.
Well, how about the Bucks?
Tributaries off of that?
What happens? The title. They don't win the title, so is Giannis no longer in Milwaukee? And where is he?
I mean,
if he's out of Milwaukee.
Yeah, good one. Those are my 3 that I had. I had the Steph versus Monte trade in there. Do you have any others?
I do have another one, but I don't know if there's enough spinoffs here. But what if Kawhi's shot doesn't go in against the Sixers in 2019? Are we having? Because I don't know if we're having a different conversation about Kawhi. He's probably still in LA, right? But what happens with the Sixers versus the Bucks? Are we having a different conversation about Joel Embiid? Are we
having a different conversation
about? Yeah. Are we having a different conversation about Ben Simmons?
Great one. Yeah, great one. Yeah, and I mean, of all the what ifs, that's the one that just feels like, well, the toe on the line, but that ball bouncing in is just. I mean, talk about the seemingly smallest thing or the tiniest margin having a ripple effect. Yeah, that's a good one. The one thing I am sure of is that Kawhi does end up in LA. It's just like that was going to happen no matter
Maybe he
what.
doesn't get as much out of that aspiration deal, though. You didn't
Maybe
win a
there's no
second
aspiration
championship.
scandal. Maybe he winds up with the Lakers. Maybe that's what happens. Man, so many
Wow.
things. So many things.
That's like not even just an entire podcast. That'd be like an entire series. What is every
Right.
team's biggest what if or
The
something?
what ifs, for sure.
My turn. Let's do. Okay, let's go with Nikolche Kolev, and this will bleed into a question from Local Nomad. Grant, Stephon Castle or Amen Thompson?
I think if you'd asked me before this season, it definitely would have been Thompson. I'm moving over to Castle. I think there's more pure point guard stuff in his game. I think there's more offensive upside in his game. The shooting to me is less of a concern with Castle than it is with Thompson. With Thompson, it feels.
Is that because he's shooting over 40% from three since the All? Does that have anything to do with
that? Has a little bit to do with it. Thompson's shooting just feels almost unfixable, whereas Castle, his volume is better. Like I don't feel hopeless when Castle shoots a three. With Thompson, it's just like there's no point, or even really kind of any kind of jump shot. So in favor of Thompson, I guess, is the positional versatility, he's greater size. I'm probably more athletic, but it's not a conversation. Thompson is more athletic, but Castle is an A level athlete. It's just Thompson is an A++.
But when you look at the way, and I know that Amen has some counters, but when you look at the way that Steph Castle moves on the ball, and maybe I overthink guys I don't know if there is a comparison for Amen Thompson's nuclear level of athleticism, but I don't view athleticism as a negative, but I'm constantly in the back of my mind wondering, well, how long is this guy's prime going to last?
Absolutely. Like the skill level has to be there. We always say like big guys and that aren't like Jokic is the example. Like he should age fine. He's going to get slower, but like he's got so much touch and skill. And like Steph, he'll age fine. He's got so much skill. Even a guy like Kyrie, honestly. But yeah, if it's just run and jump, that's a short shelf life, really. So yeah, so are you Castle? I don't know.
I'm which I don't think I would have been coming into the year.
Yeah,
but I think he's just shown to have more levels on the offensive end at this point.
Yeah, I also think, totally unscientific, I think Castle is like a pathological competitor. Like he's like a sicko competitively.
And Amen Thompson doesn't care is the implication.
Thompson wants it less, I guess.
Oh god.
What else? He's only giving 109% instead of 110. So that's a black mark in the ledger for him.
This is a spin-off question of this kind of, but from Local Nomad. Given the CBA restrictions, are you concerned about the lack of offensive progress from the Thompson twins? As a Pistons fan, I watch more Asar than Amen, but it seems to be a notable thread that defenses can pull on come playoff time. Thanks as always. Thank you, Local Nomad.
Thank you. I mean, it's been at least 10 years that this has been an issue. Got guys that are very good at a few things. It's usually defense, rebounding, athleticism, physicality, and then can't shoot. And that's what we're dealing with here. So it's not really like a new problem. I would say if anything, these types of players are becoming less valuable. I don't know when they peaked in value. Like you can make the case that like, let's say you just rewound by 8 or 10 years and Amen Thompson is on the peak Harden Rockets. Like his value there is not that great either because they just went 5 out and Harden attacked and you had to be able to make catch and shoot threes. I think now though, defenses have only gotten smarter. The exploitation of weaknesses has only gotten more pronounced. And so CBA wise, like that just makes it so you can't overpay anybody and get away with it. And now it's probably worse. It's probably worse for these guys now than it would have been years ago. Don't you think? Like you just can't, because if you overpaid them, you could get away with like, we're paying for the potential. Like, look at all the crazy things these guys can do. But then the counter is just like, I don't think they're ever going to be able to shoot. And so there's a possibility they're literally worthless in a playoff series if you're trying to go anywhere.
And I think you could look at completely different player, but consider someone who did more things on the ball, like a Ben Simmons, and how his career sort of fell apart. Injury related for sure. I'm with you on everything you said. And it's you. I don't think these are like Amen Thompson and Asar Thompson. I wonder if in the past would they not have been developed as playmakers specifically like they were, because you can't have an Andre Robertson or a Tony Allen in today's NBA. You certainly can't have them on the floor during playoff time. And I think even, wouldn't it be like Steph Castle, does he fall into this bucket at all for you? Yes, he's shown the signs of the 3-point shooting, and he has more just mid-range touch in general. But if you're getting to a point where you like, he needs to be a bit like, what is the level of shooter you need to be? Like the bare minimum level of shooter to say, if you have these other elite skills, you can be viewed as a cornerstone. Does Lou Dort or Marcus Smart, or would you consider?
So funny you mentioned Dort. That's the name that came to mind first because I've been thinking about him. This is a guy that shot 41.2% from 3 last year, and still was like a player that, now part of this is because the Thunder are who they are, but I think still most playoff defenses would be like, oh, good, Dort is shooting on this possession. That's good. And he made over 40%. Now he's at 33, and I'm thinking to myself as I'm looking at the Thunder's postseason prospects, like, why on earth would you play him over Caruso and Wallace and J-Dub if you had those guys? Because you got to guard those other guys differently. That's just the reality of it. So I say that to illustrate the idea that Dort was a 40+% 3-point shooter, and even at that level, he just wasn't someone I think defenses took seriously. They were happy when he shot. So like, I don't know what the number. It's case by case, I guess, is the cop out answer. But I feel confident saying the level of shooting required to offset, like, I guess, an otherwise one-dimensional kind of, or like the absence of some dimension, is higher than it's ever been. I just think every defense is more predatory and more willing to ignore guys that can't shoot it. So I don't know what that, I couldn't give you a percentage because, as we talk about all the time, it's not just the percentage that they go in. It's like, how often is the guy shooting?
It's the volume.
And is it still a preferable alternative to what else you might give up by like defending him honestly?
And it's what types of threes are they? Because if it's just wide, it's not even just are they wide open. Like if you're hitting off the dribble threes all of a sudden, that's going to shift the way that you're guarded.
Totally. That pulls. So Josh Hart's another example. Like we talk all the time about, if Josh Hart goes like 7 for 9 from 3 in game 1 of a playoff series, I don't think a defense changes anything in game 2 of that series.
And is there, when people also say, I am people too, I want to make this clear. When people also say, well, if he just fixes the shooting or like he starts hitting threes, who's the player where they came in as a limited shooter and then they started hitting on ball, like self-created threes?
That's a great question. You should submit that to a mailbag. That would have been a great question.
I didn't come to me until just now, but I'm trying. There's certainly not an analog for someone like Amen Thompson just all of a sudden knocking down, 3+ dribble, like creating his own 3-pointers on the regular. I don't know. Like, could Steph Castle even do something like that?
So a name just came to mind, and I'm now looking it up to see if it's legit. So Kyle Lowry, as a rookie, barely played, shot 37%. Played all 82 games his second year, shot 26% from 3. Played 77 games his third year, 26%, 27%. And then in his age 24 season, shoots 37% and is a guy that defenses care about for the rest of his career. And eventually, like, kind of becomes defined in a lot of ways offensively by pull-up threes.
Mm-hmm.
That's a massive exception to the rule. Because Ben Simmons is the other extreme of like, well, what if he's working on it? What if he develops it? I think 9 times out of 10, it's not happening. So if Castle becomes like over a full season, a legitimate 3-point threat that you're worried that he's left open, especially because of how dangerous he is getting downhill, like that's always going to make it like a jump shot probably will be preferable for him if he's a 40% shooter somehow. Like he'll have to be the exception too, because there's not a lot of Kyle Lowry career trajectories.
Your turn.
All right. How about I pick one at random? All right.
You close your eyes like you just have the mouse scrolling over.
Yeah, I just circle it around like you're pointing at it. You spin a globe and you point at it. This is from Wandering Wind. Is Scoot gonna be a real cornerstone point guard? I'll start by saying we haven't had the best sample to evaluate because of injuries. I think I'm prepared to say no. I don't see in one, the league has kind of shifted in that the smaller pure point guard, he's not super small, but that player type, you got to be so good. Like, what are the cornerstone point guards right now? Like, you might have said Darius Garland. That's a player like that, just to use like a mid tier star example. I don't think that's how he's viewed. He was just traded. Like, I'm struggling. Like, who are the point guards that are the?
You're laughing, but
this whole question is just to put that on a tee for you. I like Tyrese Maxey,
Luka.
I guess. But even I'm talking.
You're thinking more traditional guard
Luka's
size.
A power forward. So yeah, like I think the league is moving away a little bit. Like even like your Edwards, your Mitchells. I guess those guys aren't really ones. Scoot. I don't see a scenario where Scoot is a combo guard or a two. That wasn't part of the billing.
He doesn't move the same way, but he could have the profile of a Donovan Mitchell.
Okay, but he doesn't move the same way. So
no.
I'm skeptical. I don't think it's there. It's so early, and all I do every year is try to tell myself not to like form a conclusion on a player that's not 25 yet. But if you're asking the question, I don't quite see it.
Yeah, he's done a better job from what I've seen this season, finishing at the basket, getting stronger there. Turnovers can still be an issue, but I think that I look at him, and when he gets into the paint, I feels as if he should be able to run an offense, or at least be able to put 2 feet in the paint and make a play from there. Work with Donovan Clingan, who's a 2-level scorer now. Grant, I don't know if you've noticed, threes and at the rim. He's got a 2. He might on some nights he's still a 1-level scorer, and the 1 level is the 3-point scoring though. That's potentially problematic, but he's been a monster. But I don't think he's going to get there. And also, here's a follow-up question. Do the Blazers view him as one? He has started. He doesn't start. He started 3 games. He hasn't been available this year, but he started 3 games this year. What did he start? 10, 11 last year. Mort and I actually just went over this when we were talking about his extension. So do they view him as one? And they're going to have to decide, or we'll know more, I guess, this summer, because he is extension eligible, but also going into next season, you have him in theory, Denny Avdia, Shaedon Sharpe, Drew Holiday, and Damian Lillard. Like, what's the pecking order supposed to be?
It's the same question we entered this year with, except we didn't know Avdia would, for most of this season, look like a first option creator. So I think so this is still Scoot's age 21 season. The fact that he's not starting for a team that's under 500, like you can't, I think we're deep enough into it, even though it's still early, to fairly firmly say the Blazers are not treating him like that type of player. So it'd be different if I'm trying to think of another scenario where it's like I don't know. It's like when Aaron Rodgers got to Green Bay and like he was obviously great, but Brett Favre was there. There's no Brett Favre in this hypothetical, and the Blazers are not playing a ton of high level games where you just can't afford to have the young guy out there. So maybe like this is a situation where if Scoot were really showing like cornerstone upside, he would be playing more right now, because it's not like there's true greats ahead of him.
Is there like one thing, because I think there's a few things, but is there one thing that if he did this, it would make you feel as if that chance is still there?
I think the problem is that there isn't any area of his game where you're like, well, at least he's got this carrying skill. So it's like I'm reversing your question. It's like
what's his defining skill?
Yeah, like I don't see anything where it's like, okay, this is a problem and that's a problem, but this is great. I have no doubt he's going to be awesome at this, and it just fill in around it. I don't know what the awesome at this thing is yet.
So for me now, and maybe it's also problematic because this wasn't supposed to be what he did, but now the ways that when he first came in, you would have thought he got to the basket by just being faster than everybody, correct?
I did think that, yeah.
He's getting to the basket in different ways, in part because he's had some like ankle issues, but like now he's using physicality and like that strength to get to the basket. And so being able to do that, if I'm picking a skill, if you could trust the pull-up jumper, and he's at 44% on half court pull-up twos, he's at 34% on half court pull-up threes. If each of those numbers were like 6%, well, like the twos were around 50% and the threes were like 38% and the volume ticked up, where do we trust him to be? That also might be the other thing, is can Scoot continue to be more aggressive as a like what type of floor general are you?
Right.
Are you
what
score first, or are you looking to set up everybody else? And he's still sort of it fluctuates between those two existences. And I think when he's aggressive like himself, that looks most natural to me, more so than when he's not I wouldn't call him an A+ passer. He's never shown like the Ja Morant type of things, or even the Derrick Rose type of passes.
I think just in fairness to him, the Blazers have basically never put enough shooting around their guards to get a good sense, you know? And it's a lot like the LaMelo, you know, hey, but, you know, situational stuff that we would throw out there. I mean, that might be the reason that I just don't know. The situation's not ideal. His play, again, I don't know what the carrying skill is right now. It's still, other than like potential like that, you know, I do still believe there's potential. Maybe there's something in there, but yeah, there isn't a one thing.
So he's first team all mystery box, or first team all could be anything for you?
When do you lose your mystery box status? I think he still has some, but he's running out a little bit. The mystery box doesn't feel as heavy as it used to. There's less in it.
My turn. Let's do this question from Susie B. This feels like a Magic 8-Ball question, but do you think the Cavs will make it to the Eastern Conference Finals this season? I think they're gonna. I mean, it might be predicated on, well, it will be predicated on matchups. I don't know if you would prefer them to have. I mean, will the Pistons still be in first place? But I think at this rate, they're in a good, with the 4-5, you would avoid Boston in round 2, right? I think that's the route they should want to go. And I think the big thing is we have questions about them. We've gone through, there's the wing defense. The defense is now below average when Evan Mobley's on the floor with Donovan Mitchell and James Harden. There's just a lot to cover up. Now, this is another team, though, that just can't seem to get to its core lineups because they're never healthy. Max Strus is back. Jared Allen is injured. There you go. You know what I mean? So what I was worried about, and I can't remember the writer on Fear the Sword who had done a breakdown of the issues between Evan Mobley and James Harden in the pick and roll versus Jared Allen and James Harden in the pick and roll. The last game I saw of Mobley and Harden playing together, there's chemistry there now to where James Harden isn't immediately going into the lane when Mobley slips a screen or sets a screen. He just doesn't operate like that because so many times James Harden's just way too out in front of the play, or there's not a pathway for them to explore. And I think Mobley has quietly just been better and more aggressive on offense. I think the Cavs offense, this is all to say, is going to be fine. It's going to be dynamite. We know James Harden's playoff numbers through these pivotal games, if you look at game 6s and 7s. With that being said, defensively, I don't like Dean Wade or Jalen Tyson or even a Sam Merrill is going to have to do a lot of heavy lifting, or you need Keon Ellis, Sam Merrill again, or Dennis Schroeder. Like, are they going to guard up? I think overall your defense can maybe be fine if you have both of your bigs available, but you don't play dual big every game. And there are some or not every game, but for 48 minutes a game, there are also some matchups where how often can you even get to it, or should you get to it? And so that's my biggest question for the Cavs, is still sort of focused on their wing defense. And this isn't to say, by the way, I won't say exacerbated. It's been complicated by having neither Isaac Okoro nor DeAndre Hunter. But those two guys, to be clear, weren't the answer. Okoro played off the floor offensively. Hunter's just, he's 6'8", and that's why he's viewed as a solution. It's not anything that he actually does.
Yeah.
And if he wasn't going to be healthy either, Max Strus could be a better answer than DeAndre Hunter defensively. So you really need, like, it feels like Dean Wade needs to play a bunch and be healthy in the playoffs for the defense to be good enough. Otherwise, I think that's going to be and maybe that's enough to get you out of the East, but it's definitely not. They were my pick to come out of the East this year. I'd have a hard time picking them against a few of the Western Conference contenders.
For sure. If we dispense with the matchups and just sort of power rank East teams that we believe have the best chance to make the conference finals, I think at this point, Boston is number one for me, which feels insane, but here we are. I'm assuming that Cunningham will be fine for the playoffs. And so I guess Detroit still sits 2 for me. And then Cleveland, I guess I don't know if I like Cleveland more than the Knicks, maybe a little bit. So Cleveland to me feels like the third most likely conference finalist in the East. But it is still really just, to me, it's really just a class of 4. So being third is not that great.
No, it's not great. And you also, I said it's all about avoiding Boston, but when you look at if Detroit is fully healthy, the physicality with which they play isn't a great matchup for Cleveland. And you look at their rebounding numbers against some of the Knicks, even the Celtics, the Pistons, they're not great. Like, so I don't know that there's a matchup within the top 4 that I would feel excellent about with the Cavs, but I'm sticking with my preseason pick. And I do think it's encouraging that the offense, because James Harden's going to be available. That was a question mark with Darius Garland. And if the chemistry between him and Mobley's there, and more importantly, if Mobley's going to be as aggressive as he's been, that's a huge boom.
Yeah. All right. There's a couple here from BJP. I think the first one is trickier to answer. So I want to go with this middle one here. Since Silver thinks it's tanking, when that doesn't crack the top 10, what do you think is the number one problem facing the NBA right now? First of all, do you think it's tanking? Because I'm not ready to dismiss that out of hand as not being the biggest problem.
No, I don't think it's tanking. I think that's just front and center because of the time of year right now. And it might be the league's biggest problem ahead of certain draft classes.
Okay. I think saying it's tanking is, I guess it's a broader thing. And maybe I'm telling on myself and this isn't how everybody feels, but also maybe it is. I just think it's just the length of the season, which makes it so that too much of it feels like it doesn't matter, or feels like, because this is where I'm at. I'll just say right now sucks. Like when you're looking for games to watch every night, I hate it. Because I feel lucky if there's one every night now, one game where it's two good teams that are trying, and B, that have everybody healthy, or at least are only missing aren't missing their best player or 2 of their 3 best or whatever. That to me is a symptom of the league not adjusting the season length to the increased rigor required to play NBA basketball, and just there's too many, all that stuff. So tanking is part of that, because tanking is the reason that so many of these games are just like, well, I'm not watching that one tonight. I think so. I'm not ready to say tanking is not in the top 10. I think it's a huge problem. Like, it's fundamentally bad if winning isn't the goal, but I think it's part of a bigger issue, which is like the product itself is not good often and doesn't feel meaningful often. That's tanking's rolled into it, but it's not this singular thing.
My issue is I guess I'm gravitating towards problems that I know the league might try and fix. They're just never going to shorten the season. Because if they're gonna, with expansion coming, now would be the case for, can you do something and drop down because you're gonna gain back a ton of games. Yeah. Could you drop it to 66, but then you're still losing a couple hundred games there, that the NBA is just never going to do that. And so it is the length of the schedule. Can you make it better and keep 82 games by weeding out back-to-backs? Does that make the season any better, or no? Or are you just extending the window of the season at that point and shortening the off season? It feels like the biggest current problem, aside from people complaining about the fouls and the way that certain players are officiated against others, would be, is there a way to actually improve that? What would be, it's not, I don't know if it's a rule, but is there a way to get people to de-emphasize that there is inequality in how players are being officiated? Is there a different type of coverage you could game, or does there need to be different rules in place? And by the way, some of the biggest problems for me are just, they don't impact ever. I hate that teams foul up three and that. There should be a way to weed that out. That should be an auto free throwing the ball back if you do that. But this just feels like, I've noticed it more this year, that people are frustrated by the officiating, which, when you're dealing with human and human error, there's going to be a level of inconsistency there. But I see more, not even just fans, but people that cover teams suggesting that the way games are officiated or the way certain players are officiated are heavily influencing, if not outright defining or shifting, entire outcomes. And that's an idea that I just flat out reject. But how do you make it so that's not the impression? I don't have a solution for it, but I think that's a huge problem, is the way the fans consume the game is a lot of it. And maybe this is just people who are still on social media. And if you're on Twitter and you're seeing stuff that's posted, there just seems to be a level of disdain for the NBA that fans of other sports, even Major League Baseball, don't necessarily have.
See, I think that that's not an NBA problem. I think that is a social media problem, and the way that every algorithm is tuned to hope it outrage everything. If it's supposed to outrage you or make you upset or whatever, that's just how it works. So I feel that too, though. You said, what you said was, it seems like that everyone's upset about this to a disproportionate degree. And the problematic part of that is, it does seem that way. I don't know if it actually is that way, or if that's just what we're being served a lot because of the little silos that we live in with respect to basketball stuff. I would also say that I think opposing teams, executives, players complaining about the type of whistle that certain guys get is as old as basketball. It's
gamesmanship that's being disseminated more often. Yeah,
there have always been players that are harder to officiate than others. That's different. That fact is very different to me than the assertion that there's an agenda driving this. I just think some guys are hard to officiate. Some teams are hard to officiate against. I am not persuaded that there's any sort of nefarious conspiracy to promote player X over player Y. And if there was one, choosing a guy in Oklahoma City would not be on the list of wow, this is really going to grow the league. We're going to make so much money off of this. That's dumb. Yeah, I don't view that type of thing as an NBA problem. I think where I could get on board is the weaponization of the off arm on drives by offensive players. That's a problem, because that's actually a foul.
As a Knicks fan, no, I think it's fine.
It's not. Yeah, as a Knicks fan, you need less legislation on that. You've said to me in private that you believe that if a player under 6'2" gets knocked over at any point, that's a foul.
Well, it is. Why do you think Jalen Brunson leads the league in charges?
That's what I'm alluding to. It does seem like he's very good at getting knocked over. That
might be another one, is we need to get rid of the offensive, expand the restricted area, the semicircle.
Yeah,
because that stuff,
something with the block charge could be lightning round. Other problems that's just coming to me.
Well, actually, this isn't even a lightning round. They killed free agency. There's got to be when you built your entire brand around transactions. And the CBA, I think, just gave owners way too much cover too. I know every summer there's stats out there that say, well, the money being thrown around is the same, and it's something is different. Maybe I can't put my finger on about the way these teams are operating and the level of selling or just cost cutting we saw at this year's past deadline. Or teams that are just you've instituted a hard cap. That's what you did. And so either call it a hard cap or don't. But like, I'm curious as to, I'm not going to say that we're done seeing teams go into the second apron because it's actually probably going to happen next season. But it's like the Cavs are going to they're going to spend this season in the second apron and that's going to be it. Will they go into it next? Like, will the Thunder stay in it next year? Will the Knicks enter it next year? I'm just not, this is a lot of it's anecdotal, but I don't like, I'm not a fan of what the CBA has done. And I miss like the way free agency, there was a level of mystery and now it's just all pre-agency and extensions.
Yeah. I mean, maybe the best way to frame what you're talking about is like, what can you point to in the new CBA that is a clear improvement over how things used to be? Like, what's this is a great positive consequence of it. Like, I don't know if there's anything. I'm like, I can't think of a thing. It's either neutral or there's issues with like really fundamentally teams being punished for the Thunder or the team for building the right way, like through the draft and all this other stuff. Like, it's just, you're going to have to make concessions at some point. Two smaller things. One, the replay system, it takes too long. The ends of games
that's not a small thing.
Interminable. I mean, it's small in the sense like it's not a new gripe. I do think it's important to get calls right at a base level. Like,
there's a quicker way to do it though.
There's got to be a quicker way. There's got to be just more limitations on maybe the number. I don't know. They already have limited the number of challenges. I think like in conjunction,
I want unlimited challenges. There need to be stoppage.
There need to be fewer timeouts allowed in the last couple of minutes. I know that's kind of when you need them, but I can't take that we're back from break and another timeout and then there's a chat. Like, these games are getting difficult to watch towards the end. The other one, so the way that the flagrant foul situation is officiated, I think is broadly good. Like, because you want like you want plays legislated out of the game that make you go like, what the fuck was that? Like, that wasn't a bad, like, we're not playing basketball. Like the Lou Dort trip, I'm totally fine with that being officiated the way it was on Jokic. Cause like, what are you doing? Like, you're not playing basketball. That's something else. The other thing, that's a tangent. I forget even now what game it was I was watching. It was basically a breakaway layup attempt or a dunk. And the defender came from behind and kind of jumped around, but swung down. It was a foul. It wasn't a hard foul, but it was a player that was in the air on offense trying to score, being like contacted at a dead run in the air from behind. And I just it made me think like, I don't think there's any scenario where an offensive player that cannot see you coming, you can hit him in the air from behind. That should be a flagrant every time, because that's just like so preposterously dangerous and the risk of injury is so high. Like, does it make it so you're going to see fewer cool chase down blocks because guys are worried about a flagrant foul if they try? Like, maybe, but if it prevents these like incredibly dangerous plays, because it wasn't a flagrant foul. It's not always a flagrant foul if it's a behind like chase down body contact kind of foul. It was such a scary play that it just, as we're lightning rounding, it makes me think we got to figure something out about like it's like the defenseless receiver thing in football. It's like, you just can't like hit a guy that can't protect himself or doesn't see you coming. That feels like it should be a rule.
Because also maybe don't change the All-Star format every 3 seconds.
Just
because they called this year, the All-Star game this year, that ended up being good. But do you remember the same thing was said after the Elam ending was implemented? And then like a year later, no, this is awful. It just, some years are going to be good. Some years are going to be bad. This is another anecdotal one. There needs to be a way to do a better job of like promoting the entire league. Doesn't it? Don't you there's too much resting on, we keep talking about like what's going to happen after we don't need a face of the league, but why does it feel like everything is so tied to players rather than teams? Or if you're looking at the national TV schedule, why so much of it is tied to specific teams over the entire NBA? And some of the could be good, like under the radar games are scheduled so late in the year that there's all these injuries and you're not even getting to see if it's going to be like a Magic Pistons matchup. It's not happening at full strength.
Yeah. I think like I guess it goes back to Jordan, or so people would say that, where it's the league figured out through him that an individual is just way easier to market than a team. Instead of laundry, it's like, here's a face, like here's a guy that we can then mythologize and like build up as something more than just a dude that wears the same certain jersey. I think that's part of it. And we've never really gotten away from that. Do you not? I This is kind of a tangent too, but like, do you not find yourself not worrying, but wondering what it's going to be like when we're through the Steph, LeBron, KD era, and like who the marquee guys in the league are going? It's probably just Wemby, but like, because maybe it's just getting older, but I'm like, that's sad that those three guys are on the way out, right? At various stages of on the way out, and they've defined the league for, in LeBron's case, 20 years, and in the other guys like 15, a good
Yeah.
15. That do you not catch yourself, like, I don't know if it's nostalgia or
It's
whatever.
it's nostalgia. I don't view it, I guess, as much of a crisis because there's still so much top end talent, and if
Mhm.
like, you're exposed to Wemby, but some of the other players who are insane, or even it's just why does Jayson Tatum like have a low, like why is having him as a top 5 player if like Kevin Durant and LeBron James are aging out? Like why is he less of a draw than
Yeah.
those guys? It might be maybe that speaks to like how younger people might be consuming or following the sport specifically, but I don't look at the league and think it's bereft of top end talent.
Yeah.
It's just there's nostalgia. Yeah, I'm getting sad that what did I say this on the other pause? LeBron's battled arthritis and sciatica in the same season. I feel ancient and it's sad.
Right.
But just knowing that, well, how many more seasons of Steph, of
Mhm.
KD, of LeBron do we have? That's a bummer for sure. Do you view it as a crisis?
No, because it's just someone steps in, and it doesn't even matter if they're like objectively better than the previous generation, which probably they will be because that's how progress works. But like, I think a lot now about how, did you read that article about how like the whole Mamba thing, like ad campaign and whatever that Kobe wound up with
No.
was originally planned for Jordan and he didn't like it,
Oh,
or something happened. And so they trotted it back out for Kobe years later. And he's like, yeah. And that became like his entire identity. So that's just to say that like marketing can put anybody, it's not like a one to a perfect fit. Like if you have it's not like the league will be bereft of talent, right? Like someone will be the best player in the league in 5 years, whoever that is, and we'll think of them that way. And it's, there's a renewal that happens all the time. And like kids that are 10 and 12 years old right now that don't have the same attachments and feelings towards Steph and KD and LeBron that we do, they'll be like, it's perfectly normal that Anthony Edwards and Victor Wembanyama and Jayson Tatum and Cade Cunningham are the
th-
guys for this generation. It won't be
I
weird to them.
I do wonder how much of it could be because of the longevity of KD and LeBron and Steph. Like what Giannis and Jokic have been made us not feel like have made us feel the renewal more than they even have because now when you think about it, I feel as if a lot of people believe like, oh, Wemby arrived in the nick of time because like KD and Steph and LeBron are
Uh-huh.
on their way out and Wemby's become the marquee viewing. And we've had Giannis and Jokic for like operating at the peak of their powers for a decade or more at
Hmm.
this point. But because LeBron and Steph and KD have been around, are they part of this? Are a lot of the guys part, even if you wanted to throw a Donovan Mitchell or a Tatum himself in there, have been a part of this weird in between range where you needed the someone new as these guys were exiting. And that's why Victor Wembanyama is incredible, but is he such a breath of fresh air because he's coming at a time when fans, the NBA have no choice but to come to terms with the departures, the career mortalities of LeBron, KD, and Steph.
Yeah, that's an interesting aspect of it. I guess the counter would be like, well, isn't this generation's like top class going to play 18 or 20 years too? Like, why
Well,
wouldn't
because they're
that be
already that generation's class. Jokic and Giannis are in their 30s.
Yeah, no,
Donovan Mitchell, same deal.
well, but then, so I do think what does resonate with me is the, oh, Wemby is arriving at the right time type of thing, is not so much because we got to have a face of the league type of thing. It's more that we were due for someone that would change the sport, because Curry did that, and now the sport is very different. And because like he did stuff that just wasn't done, and Wembanyama is 100% in that mold where he just does things that were not done before. And so who knows which direction the game will go because of that. Before Steph, you could make the case that it was Jordan, that just like the idea of the I don't know, just the pure shooting guard, like the Helios, whatever it was, Magic kind of before that. There's always a guy, like, I don't know what the average year, like time span is between the like, oh, that's different type of guy. Wemby feels like the first player since Steph that like that label applies to. Do you agree with that? Like, is there someone I'm missing between Steph and Wemby
Do
that's
you
sort of
think
forced?
Harden had a hand in it when you look at heliocentrism?
Maybe he, well,
Or is that
but
more
that
of a
didn't
Daryl
that
Morey
never won you
Rockets thing?
anything. That didn't win anything. It's like the Steph thing. They
It won Luka
won.
a first class ticket to LA, out of doubt.
He hasn't won shit either. Yeah, I think Wemby has arrived at the right time in that sense. Should we? Okay, we got to pivot. I want to do this other one, and we're gonna have to brainstorm here because this is a really good question. Also from BJP, which current bench / role player is most likely to take the Derrick White leap? Parenthetical, a star, but not in the conventional ball dominant way. So Derrick White is we
Player for
always
the Celtics. Go on.
talk him up. Playing for the Celtics, came from the Spurs, had a cool dunk in a Spurs playoff series one time. That was my first real memory of him. I don't know what the Derrick White leap is other than to say he established himself as someone that is hugely impactful on winning on both ends, but no one would call him a star. But then you look up most of the catch-alls and he's like a top 10 guy more, as often as not. And I don't know what that, it's a hard mold to sort of like cast somebody in, but maybe the better question is just who becomes someone that's like wildly impactful on winning that no one views as a star now or even after that change happens. You just got to kind of go through the players you like that seem underrated. I don't know do you have somebody in mind as I'm vamping here?
Well, it's also because you're kind of look at maybe a player who's scaling forward, maybe like because Derrick White was not this high volume of a 3-point shooter before he went to
Right.
Boston. Wasn't even
Right.
this level of a shot. I mean, this season's not the best example, but wasn't even this level of a shot maker. The
Mhm.
one that springs to mind, and it's also interesting because he might need to change teams for it to happen when you look at their makeup, would be Cason Wallace for
Okay.
me.
Okay.
He's already that guy in the sense of look at all he does defensively. Shoulders, I would say the heaviest load aside from anyone not named Lou Dort on that team. And then there was when Shea was injured, along with J-Dub being injured and AJ Mitchell was injured, there was that brief pocket of time where he needed to do more offensively. And it was, he can do things off the dribble. He can do more passing. And he's similar to Derrick White as well. Not the way that he's not getting these chase down blocks in transition, but he's a shaky shooter. And Derrick White wasn't the most efficient shooter coming over from San Antonio. I do look at Cason Wallace as someone who is maybe he's doing more than just hitting wide open threes in the corners offensively. I don't know if it was different with Derrick White because the Spurs did kind of give him the opportunity to, he was arguably doing too much.
Right.
And Derrick White broadened his horizons, but while scaling down, I think Cason Wallace has to do both. I could see him broadening his horizons, but he's going to need to scale up specifically offensively. I think he's my pick.
Okay, I have a couple as I'm looking. So I was just kind of because I got myself on a train of thought with how Derrick White is just always like an EPM or whatever. Whatever catch all, he's always up high. Someone that has shown up a couple years in a row that kind of feels like they fall into the same category of the numbers say this guy's a superstar impact wise, but nobody would think of him that way. What about Ty Jerome? Because Ty Jerome right now in EPM is right between Luka and Kawhi, ahead of Kawhi.
That's not a cumulative stat. Like
no, it's not. He barely plays, so that's the other element of like he missed the vast majority of this year with an injury. But just that's one avenue towards finding the next Derrick White is like who keeps showing up in some of these metrics. I don't love that answer.
Do you think the next Derrick White was Nickeil Alexander-Walker already?
He's already done it.
Yeah,
I mean, preaching to the choir. Nothing's been more gratifying than Alexander Walker showing out this year. Love it. That's actually, yeah. Has he already done it? That would be somebody. What about, I had somebody, Con Knippel's like too good, too fast. He's already a star. Scrolling down. Oh, What about Jalen Suggs? That's another like
Ooh,
availability thing.
that's a good one. I do wonder though, does like him getting paid out of the gate, like
He's
it's
already,
not a
yeah.
max, but like getting the $150 million deal, I wonder if that changes the way that he's viewed. And also everyone seems to know how,
Right.
his shot is still so rickety, but every on-off metric says that Jalen Suggs is, and is he ever going to have the counting stats to be as high up in where is he typically, you're more in tune with EPM than I am. Like, where is he normally in it?
High-ish, but it's not like, you got to scroll down a little bit. AJ Mitchell? Are people already
You just want
like
to name Thunder players? Brooks Barnhiser.
I mean, they're all well, they do at least have the White wasn't like hidden on the Spurs. That's not quite right. So, because they had so many good guys ahead of him.
They're like a big tough man. Like, what about Cade in Boston?
I was thinking like, I guess Edie is too.
Ooh, that's like
too understood.
I'm sorry. Here's one. Maybe this is going to say a lot about you, depending on your reaction to this answer. Brandon Pajemski.
Let's see. It's maybe. I mean, I said Ty Jerome, so I can't sit here and like really shoot down your suggestions. What does that look like to you? How does he? What does it look
honestly,
like?
It looks like basically what he is now. I don't, for the life of me, know when the last time I was higher on a good player than their own fan base. Isn't it supposed to work? Warriors fans really see, is it because Joe Lacob thought he was going to be on the Mount Rushmore of all NBA players or something? I don't. What is it about? Yes, I know he has the egregious shots sometimes, but what is it about Pods that has made him so divisive within Warriors fandom? So I think he's he's not Derrick White, but he's the Derrick White type of gap filler, to where Derrick White has a dominant skill, but it's a micro skill. Like, what is Derrick White's dominant skill? He was first team he can make first team all defense. That's not fair to Derrick White, but he's a gap filler. Like, what is
yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
So no, I think the core difference, and I was prepared to serve you the cocktail of unlikable qualities that Warriors fans fixate on with Pajemski, many of which I share. We could do that later. I think the fundamental difference between him and White is you could make the case that what makes White so good is quick diagnosis of what is necessary right now in this game situation, and I do it quickly. Whether that's a shot, a pat, like a connective pass, a drive, like, oh shit, like he's 6'4" and he just came out of nowhere for an incredible block, like that, like the quick diagnosing and addressing of on-court situations. Pajemski is awful at that. He, like, the shorthand is Warriors fans hate that he pounds the dribble too much, and it's just because his processing speed on most things is too slow. Or he's always it's not that he like does he waits too long to do the simple obvious thing, which is like make the quick pass or catch and drive. There's too much like hemming and hawing in his game, and I think that is one of the ingredients in the cocktail of why Warriors fans are so annoyed by him, and why I would push back on him having the Derrick White, like, just get him on a winner or something. And because in fairness, Pods does have like some of the catch-all metrics and the on-off stuff have liked him over the years.
Oh, but by the way, there
that.
This is a stat when we were talking about his extension the other day on an episode that I'm referencing that isn't going to go live for days. He has logged over the past 3 years 2,500 minutes without Steph or Draymond Green on the court. Mm-hmm. That is 2.5 times more than anybody else during that. Moses Moody is second, and the Warriors have won those minutes.
Yeah, amazing. There's a ton of numbers that say he's a helpful winning player. Just to do the quick and dirty, like, I think Warriors fans are annoyed by what I mentioned with the ball stopping and the pounding the dribble, and they're like, are we pivoting for the 15th time on this possession right now? Like that kind of thing. I think the demeanor, the complaining to the officials, the like put upon kind of vibe that he has sometimes really does rub people the wrong way. And the third is the hair.
It's fine when Draymond does it, though.
It's stupid hair, and I hate it, and he needs to cut it, and it's not a good look. That's probably honestly 90% of what most Warriors fans dislike is the hair.
Did you have anybody else on that list? Those are two really good questions.
Yeah, no, I now I just want to spend all the time on like looking for I mean, it's probably Deuce McBride, right? Is that the next guy that pops?
That's not a bad one. He's made himself a lot of money by being injured because the Knicks clearly need him.
They need him.
Speaking of the Knicks, let's go to this Knicks question from Frank Ocean 5941. How many minutes do the Knicks need from Mitchell Robinson per game in the postseason? Here's a stat. When Mitchell Robinson plays 21 minutes or more, the Knicks are 11-4. So Mitchell Robinson needs to play at least 21 minutes per game, as I've decided. Arbitrarily, that's the number.
It's higher than the Knicks should feel comfortable about, or that they can reasonably expect him to play. How many minutes do they need? Like, to do what?
It's going to be matchup dependent, because do you want to see them play more dual big? Those lineups have been okay this year. Or are you just using him as your backup five? In which case you can't. How many minutes do you need him to play as well? How do you want Karl-Anthony Towns to play less? I think 22 to 24 feels like the sweet spot. Should give him time to play some dual big stuff. It would honestly, and I'm also caking in that I'm trying to be realistic. You want 25 plus minutes from him and you're playing dual big all the time, but I just don't think that he's going to hold up under that. It's not something he's ever had to do.
Do you remember, because he played 6 games in all 3 series that went 6 last postseason. Was he battling something? Was there an ankle? Was he playing hurt last playoffs? I can't remember if there was like some. It seems there sort of always is.
He was coming back from that ankle injury that cost him the entire season.
Right.
And he entered the season. They listed it as like not playing. And
that's right.
Ankle injury management.
That's right. So he played 16.5 minutes per game against Detroit, 20.7 against Boston, and then 24.5 against the Pacers. I think you're right. It has to be 20. I think, and depending on the matchup, it might need to be closer to that 25-ish that he played against Indiana in the conference finals last year. But
if they're playing the Celtics, maybe they need 10 from him because Joe Mazzulla is going to intentionally foul him immediately out the gate. That's the other thing that you have to factor into the equation.
Yeah, I'm trying to think now. We're just thinking matchups, but does his offensive rebounding give you a huge advantage against Boston? Does his presence in the middle matter for a Boston team that just shoots jump shots all the time like that? I don't know. That'd be a fascinating matchup. I think you're right that it's got to be low. You're not getting away with less than like low 20s. I don't think for the optimal postseason run for the Knicks.
No, because then what is I don't know how many minutes you want Karl-Anthony Towns playing. His defense is topsy-turvy to begin with. If you're going to let Karl-Anthony Towns play a little more aggressively like they have, that's just going to make him more gassed. So are you going to these lineups where OG is your 5, or is Jeremy Sohan playing? It can't be Ariel Huckporty. So I think and also the entire point of load managing Mitch the way they have this season needs to be that he can give you more than 20 minutes per game in the postseason if you deem it necessary. Not that you have to, because there'll be some matchups where maybe you don't want to, but that he should be able to. And if he can't, I don't know how you pay him beyond this season.
All right. I thought this question was not here, but I just forgot how it was worded, so I'm glad I found it. This is from Yoho. Everyone seems to be doubting the Spurs, mostly because they're not being a good historical comp for them if they win the championship. We've talked about it. You got to win a playoff series as constructed within the last 3 years to really be viewed as a title threat. But the historical comp is right under our nose. The 99 Spurs led to the title by a young and professionally inexperienced big, Tim Duncan, who provided more defensive than offensive value. Fair. Duncan was first team All-NBA that year, which Wemby probably should be this year, assuming he plays enough. The team construction was different with an aging star, talking about David Robinson. What do you guys think? Is the 99 Spurs the best historical comp for this Spurs team if they win the chip? It's an interesting comparison with Duncan in the Wemby role. As I was looking this up, though, every other starter was at least 30 on that team. And that was also a lockout year, which is so easy to forget.
It's basically a bubble title is what you're saying.
It's basically a bubble title. And that 2020 Lakers team is the only team to not have a playoff series win before winning the title. So there's that. Also, lockout years are just weird. And it's one, small sample. 2, who knows what kind of shape guys are in. That's the year they beat the Knicks, right? And the Knicks were an 8 seed that made the finals. So, or something. Wasn't that right? I think that was it.
Also, Does Wemby have a David Robinson?
That's the other thing. Luke Cornett, we love you, but you're not one of the 6 greatest centers of all time or whatever it is. One of the greatest defensive players to ever play the sport. Just a total freak. Robinson was not at his apex then because he was over 30, like everybody else that played significant minutes for that Spurs team. But he was not Luke Cornett either. So I don't think it's that. There are some parallels, just the youth of Wembanyama versus Duncan. I'll bet you Duncan was older, by the way, in that rookie year than Wemby is now. But I have another team in mind. I'm curious if you have a team that this Spurs squad reminds you of, or it's like, oh, this is the path that they could take
to them winning.
Well, it does.
Like
I don't think that's realistic.
Okay,
but like, do they remind you of anybody?
Could it be? Is it that first Thunder team that made the finals and then got trucked by Miami?
Oh, I didn't even think of that.
2012, right? Thunder with Harden and Russ and Serge and KD, Nick Collison, obviously.
Obviously, in hindsight, did it feel at the time like
they were going to make many more appearances?
Well, yeah, 5 finals appearances minimum. But if in my memory, like Westbrook and certainly Durant and even like all those guys felt more established than Castle, Harper, Champagny. Like those guys felt more like
they were in the league for a few. I mean, when you're looking at who was the youngest, it was Harden, and he had been, or maybe Harden and Russ were at the same time they'd been in the league. Harden was going to be extension eligible. It was year 4.
Yeah. I mean, the Castle.
But I don't know, like De'Aaron Fox is more established than any of those guys that were like De'Aaron Fox is like, I guess it's different because Wemby's still so early into his career, but I don't think it's, I think it's, I don't know how close it is, but that would be my pick. That 2012 Thunder team. Because if the Spurs make it to the conference finals or get bounced in the finals or the conference finals, isn't your reflexive thought going to be, oh, they'll be back?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'll be like, well, that was supposed to happen, and next year it's for then now it's all bets are off. I did think a little bit about the 13-14 Warriors, which was the one that the Clippers beat, I think, in the second round, maybe, or might have been the first round. It was the last year before Kerr took over, so that's a bad. I don't think the Spurs are being held back by a coach that doesn't know what to do with his offense like the Warriors were, but I do think there's something. There is a possibility that like because Wemby is such a one of one. I don't know if they've figured out like what the best way to deploy him is in a lot of instances. So there's that like that idea that like they're kind of still fighting with a hand tied behind their back, which was the sense that you got with the Warriors with Steph and Clay and like not a lot of high volume threes, and like David Lee's role was still really big and before Draymond really popped. So like there's some of that, I think. Just the idea that like there's something here for sure. It's like undeniable. And the Wemby Steph parallels are pretty solid, but like they haven't quite dialed in. They haven't like got all the dials turned to the right settings yet, but like somewhere in there is something potentially great but like there's so I mean, maybe look, if you're making the case for the Spurs winning the title this year, you're hoping that there is no historical comp. You're hoping that this is the thing we refer back to the next time an upstart team looks many years ahead of schedule. I think that's probably what you want.
Let's do this question from Cosmic Raccoon. I'm very curious to know your answer to this one. Kawhi has been playing like one of the 3 or 4 best players in the league since his return, factoring in matchups. Which top West seed do you think he and the Clips have a better chance of upsetting, the Spurs or the Oklahoma City Thunder? The fact that this is even a question is insane.
I mean, they don't have a real shot at upsetting either of them, I don't think.
You had to be that guy. We were operating.
So no, I'm gonna give an answer. I would say it's. I think I have to say they're more likely to upset the Spurs. The Thunder just have. If it's possible to have the right or enough guys to throw at Kawhi defensively, the Thunder have it. I think like that defense is just so ridiculous if they're healthy. And like J-Dub profiles as a pretty good Kawhi guy, and Dort for that matter. Wallace, even Karut, like they've got the bodies to throw at him. And then I just don't really know. I guess Chris Dunn helps to have, if we're just trying to see, like, we're talking upset. Nice to have Chris Dunn against SGA. Yeah, I don't know. I think the Spurs just feel like they're more prone to getting beat by a Kawhi-led Clippers team, but it's hard to see.
And I think the big deal there is, while Steph Castle's been hitting his threes, Dylan Harper now too, you could just, if you really, because there's no answer for Wemby, and the Clippers had they had Zubats, the answer to me is just the Spurs. If they could have, like, if you kept Zubats, had Garland, you had Kawhi, the answer would be, yeah, the Spurs. That makes more sense. They could throw a bunch of physicality at Wemby. Between Brook Lopez and Collins, maybe you could get there. Isaiah Jackson still has like some little bounce, but I think that being able to play, feeling as if you could maybe play off of guys like Fox, like Dylan Harper, like Steph Castle, I think I have to go. I don't know if you feel that same way about the Thunder, just because, like, Shea. There's like, you're not going to play, not that they're going to play off of Shea, but you could play off of some of the Spurs as primary ball handlers. We know there's one primary ball handler in OKC that you cannot play off.
Yep.
Go under against, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I mean, as great as Kawhi has been, the upset conversation is about a lot more than him. Because, I mean, you can make the case that Kawhi's
versus
just going to...
the Spurs would be wild, though.
Oh, yeah. I mean, but I was going to say, like, he's the type of scorer that, like, he might just get his regardless. Like, it might, he's as likely to light up Lou Dort as he is Cass. Like, it's just the types of shots that he can make. Those pull-up twos are like, they're going in or they're not a lot of the time. You're not going to be so physical with him that he shies away or what. Like, it's just got more to do with the surrounding team.
Right. And that's even aesthetically, and I'm sure I would bet it statistically, like, okay, Wemby, this huge deterrent in the interior. The Thunder also just feel like they will destroy you on the perimeter in ways that the Spurs cannot. And so where the Thunder could make those tough shots, either ensure more often that they don't happen because they've just turned you over, or two, just the level of contest they're going to get on them. You don't have, like, with Garland and Kawhi specifically, I'm looking at, maybe even Benedict Mathurin too, you look at them and say, I think they'd have a better chance of getting the shots that the Spurs would be willing to give up off than Oklahoma City, which doesn't really seem willing to concede much of anything ever.
Right. Yeah. The argument would be that, like, Wemby's greatest impact is the deterrent effect around the rim, and Kawhi wants to shoot 17 footers or 12 to 17 footers at his best, and maybe Wemby doesn't affect those as much. I would also say, like, maybe he will. maybe he'll find a way to deter those kinds of shots. It's hard to say. All right, I'll do a quick one here from All Grit. Is Jayson Tatum back? How far back? I would say pretty far back. I will not could say I've watched every minute of him since he's been back from the Achilles. I watched all the first game, which was a mixed bag. I think he's farther back than I could have even, like, most optimistically imagined at this stage. Maybe that's the way to put it. So I don't think he's the fourth or fifth best player in the league at the moment. It wouldn't shock me if we get into the playoffs and we're talking about how, well, he's pretty clearly back in the top 10 again. I think that's on the table, assuming he's allowed to play as much as he wants to. Where are you at on him?
Yeah, the way he moves off the ball right now, I've been really impressed by. The one thing I'm wondering if it's going to get there is we've talked about, they don't have guys who are going to draw free throws in volume, and he had become that guy for them. That's not happening this year. I think is pretty clearly the way they're using him, even the way he looks on the ball. And I'm curious. I hope that's back next year, because he was a top 5 player in the league, top 7 player in the league. And that, for a reason, he had made that leap there. That would be my only immediate quote unquote concern. But I'm with you that I think he's looked great. If I had to say, what could he peak at this season? Out of top 10 might even feel a little ambitious to me.
Yeah. Well, like, is he a better player than Jaylen Brown right now?
No.
Probably not. And I think at his peak, to me, it was not
a better player than Derrick White / Brandon Przemski right now.
I think I think he's still better than, at least in terms of how defenses have to think about him. He's better than Derrick White, but you're right. Like, the percentages are not there. and he's getting to the foul line 3 times a game in 29 minutes. That's
It's
not
like
good.
half his rate per 36 minutes last year, I think.
Yeah. And he's not, I mean, look, I think I'm just still going to stick with like, it's insane that he's looking at like he does way less than a year removed
right
from the
What is
Achilles.
are we done with the kill? Like Drew Smith came back in like a week, basically after his Achilles. Like, what were
you remember
like
the craziest one in the one I was like Wes Matthews? Do you remember that one? Like he was, I forget when it happened, but it was like 8 or 9 months, I think. And he was
he signed with he signed with the Kings, and then was like, whoa, maybe not you. Then went to the Mavs. That's right. He was back.
That was the benchmark for he's
this isn't a mailbag question, but why doesn't Tyrese Halliburton like playing basketball then? Why has he not? He's had more than enough time.
Well, I mean, he knew he couldn't hit the 65 game threshold this year, so what was the point? That's the only time he put. No, I mean, here's a question. I wonder if he's like basically at the same stage that Tatum is rehab wise. I guess his was like close to 2 months later, so that's ridiculous. But like,
you're right.
Just,
so he's not competitive enough to try and beat Tatum's timeline.
Right,
back,
that's the problem. You're right. Yeah. He didn't. You know what? He doesn't want.
It couldn't have been 2 months. The playoffs are long, but the Eastern Conference semifinals were.
I was thinking it was like April for Tatum, but it was later than that. Halliburton was like mid-June, so that one
was Game 6 of the NBA.
Right, that's
finals,
as far as you can go, basically. All right.
You want to tackle these quick ones before we do? We have that segment, that great question from Nate coming up that inspired an entire segment. But we have these questions. We'll start with Candon 2591. Grant, what is your preferred advanced statistic?
The bad answer is you shouldn't just use one. Because speaking for myself, I'm not smart enough to know whether one is all that much better than the other or what's included and excluded in all of them. So use a lot of them. If I had to pick one, I really do like EPM the best. If we're talking about like VORP and Raptor, LeBron, BPM, which is on Basketball Reference, that gets used a lot. I think it's EPM for me. One, it just seems like smart people in the industry tend to like the inputs and outputs of that one. It does to me. This is a reverse engineering, but it does seem like it reflects the guys that I feel like are the best in the league. Like it tends to like retroactively line up with my personal opinions. So I don't know.
It confirms my bias.
Yeah, confirms my bias is the best. I mean, well, like sometimes like PER is a good example of that still just really loves guys that get a lot of rebounds. And it just favors big men, for example. Like all of these have their blind spots and biases. Just, use your advanced metrics responsibly, please. And make sure you're mixing them with others would be what I'd say.
I don't think it's as mainstream anymore. EPM's the answer. I don't use it as much as you do, but it is the one that if I go and look, it's one of the first ones I go to. I do like regularized adjusted plus minus, RAPM. Just anything that's going to try and adjust. So not only account for the individual player contributions, but try and adjust for the lineups you're in and also the quality of the opponents that you're facing and the work that goes. I don't pretend to understand like how they go about doing all of that. Yeah. Even RAPM has the time decay in it. And so it seems like nerds really that would be called nerds really trust that one. So that's another go-to.
Yeah. That one I think is Jerry Engelman's, right? Like I think he's the one, if you've been reading like ESPN over the years and others, I think he's worked for teams like that. That's his baby, I think. I think it's Taylor Snar. We should shout these people out that runs Dunks and Threes. I think that's the name. I can't remember. Dunks and Threes is where you get EPM.
And Data Baller. No E in Baller has I think that's the mainstream one that had, because RAPM has been at a bunch of different places.
And ESPN had its RPM for a while. Yeah, all kinds of stuff.
Wasn't ESPN? I heard someone I think told me that ESPN was supposed to release like a new catch-all. I haven't seen anything though.
Me neither.
I will say this isn't fair, and I love the folks over I think at B-Ball indexing. Kristen Arseny was excellent. I don't trust metrics that are named after a player. LeBron or a team, Raptor, Draymond.
There was Carmelo for a minute, right?
Well, that's just now you're asking for skepticism if you're naming your metric Carmelo.
I'll ask this follow up here from Matty L. What's the one stat you would get rid of, and is there one you would add? Do you have a good answer?
I would get rid of. I love John Hollinger, but please, for the love of God, we got to stop citing PER.
Yeah, not the best. Um, I'll go more revolutionary. I think we've reached a point where field goal percentage we can just kind of dispense with it. Just field goal percentage because it's fundamentally not a great quality of a stat if after being told the number that it quantifies, you then have to look up at least one or two other things to see how meaningful it is. Which, so in the case of field goal percentage, like, I don't know, DeAndre Jordan shot 70 whatever percent from the field for like 7 straight years in lob with the Lob City Clippers. Is
Just
he
say
the best?
twos.
Is he the best shooter in the league? Don't think so. But I mean, the ball goes in the most when he shoots it. So you have to look at like true shooting percentage,
Do,
effective field goal percentage. All that stuff is just
or even separate it between twos and threes if you want to do it
sure.
that way. Then do
That's
you
fine
cringe
too.
a little bit when we still have to do, if we're doing write-ups at Bleacher Report and it's like these player rankings and there's the structure of, no, they're not telling us what to write, but when we have to put the per game lines in and we're
Right.
still using field goal percentage, I hate myself a little bit each time when I contribute
the thing I'll do the shooting split just so you get threes, twos, and free throws, and then like from there you can get a decent sense of true shooting, which is really like what you're after.
Would you know what a stat I would add though?
What?
And we have rim deterrence is out there, but I want a stat of like, what are the blocks, percentage of the blocks that get just grabbed out of they're called the Wemby abduction blocks, I think is what Spurs fans call them, or alien blocks, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I want a specific stat, use the alien or abduction acronym. And so that we could know they didn't swat it into the stands. It's not even just a term, like actually caught it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I want a stat on that.
Well, I'll use this to hawk fear, which is the forced exits around the rim, which I made up. I haven't got the patent on that, so steal it if you want. B-ball index or whatever. I would like that one. More seriously though, this exists out there. I haven't found a place that I can readily access that has it. But give me like a player's shooting ability that, like, what, don't give me field goal percentage, give me how much better or worse is the player on this type of shot in this situation defended this way versus the league average. So it's like because then it's like shot making ability almost. So it's like, okay,
so
this
they
guy
have
shoot. Go ahead.
B-ball index has that.
Okay, that okay. Then
I would
I
be
need to
curious as
research
to
more.
No, but it's not mainstream. Like, to make it mainstream, like, first of all, there's a fortune out there to be made for someone who makes kind of the more play type breaks down, like zone defenses or percentage of double teams, makes that accessible to
Mhm.
people. And I mean accessible where, okay, it's subscriber based, but it doesn't cost $3,000 a month or whatever the Synergy subscription
Right.
runs at the moment. But to your point, with that many things, it would be cool to have. We have the matchup data where it's, oh, player X shot against play,
Mhm.
but I don't want that. I want to know, like, what's their relative shooting percentage based on the quality of the defender. It's not even the play type situation. That would be more. And like, can we pin down actual contests? Not, oh, this player was the closest at 10 feet away, so he's listed as the primary defender of this shot.
Yeah, that's the tracking data stuff is tricky there. I would also say we need more uniformity in how each arena classifies shot locations, because certain teams like generally don't categorize shots as like at the rim for their defense very often. They'll call them something else. There's it seems like pretty Wild Westy still in terms of like a human decided that attempt was an at the rim attempt when it was like a 7-foot floater or something, or vice versa. Don't love that.
Let's do superpowers, Grant.
Okay.
This is from Nate, and they said it'd be a fun exercise. I think it'd be a fun segment. Be talking about superpowers of the top 10 players that come to mind. So giving an example of Wemby or Steph. So we took some liberties here. Nate also said it'd also be cool to see some niche superpowers. So let's do name that NBA player superpower. Let's go. We'll do 2 stars and a niche and go that way. So I will give you the first NBA player superpower to name.
Let's see. Who do I want to boy, there's a lot of good ones here. This is one of my favorite ones. So he counts as a star. So Tyrese Maxey has a wrong-footed runner that, because he's so fast, And because like it raises the question of if he even needs to do this, but because he can at the speed he can do it at, and from the distance he can shoot it, it's kind of like, as a defender, I would be just like driven mad by how difficult it is to contest it. Because as a defender, you time your steps up to the conventional 1-2, like inside takeoff foot, opposite hand finish. And Maxey isn't even shooting a layup. He's going from farther out at a dead run, and he will shoot a right-handed right foot floater. That's just like, there's no defense for that. That is a superpower. Like Kyrie Irving has that. Kyrie Irving has the best like wrong foot package of any player I've ever seen. But Maxey, at the speed he moves, that to me is like a definitional like no one else does it. It is a true superpower for him.
So I was actually saying we should name them and the other players should identify them. So I'm going to throw one at you. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this player, Steph Curry. What's his superpower?
I mean,
you can only pick one. His best superpower.
Yeah, right. Just being a good human, I guess, is what I would say. Great example of a human being. It's got to be, to me, I think it's his ability to move off the ball and get shots up as relentlessly as he does.
I think that's probably fair. So basically, there's also the relocation that he does really well, but that's more of
kind of, yeah, that's
niche,
part of it.
It's niche of niche. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, in that case, I will give you, we already talked about Wemby a little bit, kind of spoiled that one. Give me Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's superpower.
Strong ass off arm. That's what it is.
It really is. I mean, isn't it a bummer that is like one of the things that makes him great?
I don't fault him for it though. The guys who use it, like if that's the way the game, like, yeah, it'd be cool to legislate some of this stuff, like some of the actual, what I view gimmicky stuff, which I don't consider 3 points gimmicky, legislating that out of the league. But if it's that's like, I don't look, it's not foul baiting if like that's you're playing within the rules of the game. But there's that. There's also his hesitation dribbles are just insane. Like the shiftiness with which he plays when he gets into the lane is, and that's also, if he didn't have the superhuman off arm, he'd probably still be among the top 5 in free throw attempts per game.
That's the thing is even before all this, before he really leaned into it, I think, you could just, can't you remember like really as he was breaking as oh shit, this guy's like a high 20s, like 30s scorer, just how shifty he was, like how slithery. That was the word I use all the time, is just like an off time and just had that ability. That's kind of an across the board superpower, is like if you can do stuff at a cadence that the defense finds weird, you're going to be good. Like just if you can get off of the rhythm of like a normal basketball player, that's a superpower by itself.
Grant, name the NBA player's superpower. Your guy, Stephon Castle.
He has many. I think my favorite one is I don't even know if it's I don't know what I'd call it. It's like the bulldozer layup, where whether the defender is bigger or smaller than him, he just does a hard head down drive and doesn't really beat the guy, but puts him under the basket through strength and goes up off 2 feet and just makes a layup after, like, I don't know what it is. It's kind of a big man move or more of, and he doesn't do the like discard shove off arm thing as egregiously as many others. So he just runs the guy into the basket, puts him underneath it, and goes up off. It's like diabolical in its simplicity and how effective it is. So I love that about him.
That's a good one.
Does he have another one? Not yet. He's still developing his superpowers.
3-point shooting post All-Star break.
All right. Give me, let's see. I want to give you one that's too, this guy's a star. I don't want to pick him. How about, does Mikal Bridges have a superpower? What is it?
Is it a superpower to never want to be touched by another player? And so you're just fading out of layups as you get closer to the basket?
I really think like that's the correct answer, by the way.
That's why his streak is still alive, though. So I respect it.
Nobody ever hits him. No, I mean, like,
it's durability because he's how have you put it? He's forever fading.
It's like equally charged magnets, where he just like somehow he's repulsed by the defender and goes by the basket, and whatever the shot is, he moves away from the basket as he's shooting it.
it looks like it's in one of those invisible force fields that it's like an Endgame. I don't know if you were like watching, or was that Endgame or Infinity War, where it's around Wakanda and you can't pass through it. And so he reaches there. It's like, nope, gotta fade. Doesn't matter in transition, in the half court.
Whatever.
I honestly, did he teach it to DeAndre Ayton, or did DeAndre Ayton teach it to him? What is that?
Oh my God, they played together. There's a skills coach in Phoenix that's like, everybody wants to go towards the basket. Hear me out.
It's also, they kind of took it one step further from Devin Booker, who could hit fadeaway jumpers, but Devin Booker's not afraid when the pathway's open and get to the rim. It's like, what if we just always did that?
They're never going to expect it, guys. They think you want to go to the basket. If you go the other way, free lunch.
Grant, name me NBA player superpower. LeBron James. What's his superpower?
I mean, not aging. Shouldn't that be the simplest answer? There's so many. I know.
Look,
well,
he's been hashtagging washed king on his social media posts for like 15 years for at least.
I mean, that's the thing, is he's changed it so many times. Remember for a minute there, he would do that weird, like little sidestep three to the right, where he would like look at the ball, look down at it, like that came and went. I don't think he does that anymore. The wraparound pass to the corner, that's a big one. Just being huge and having vision and throwing the cross court skip pass to the opposite corner. Like, he's been great at that forever.
Some would say that's a bug, not a feature, because it proves he doesn't want it as much as MJ or Kobe, who would have taken the shot. FYI.
I mean, it used to be before they kind of legislated it out. He had like the pro hop. Remember that? Like down really well, where you're 1 foot hop to a 2 foot plant, wait, and then go up powerfully. That's kind of gone. That was a big one for him. I mean, it's the longevity, I guess. That's got to be it. All right. How's about, okay, what's the NBA superpower for Jalen Brunson?
He has a superhuman off arm for someone so small, right?
He does. He's got a couple.
So there's the 2 feet in the paint, like going up for baskets with 2 feet is really cool. I think this is obvious, and maybe Knicks fans will disagree. Just the pivot foot. Just like especially off the left, like he could just, it doesn't make any sense. And I guess sometimes it might look like it's a travel, but man, that left foot pivot, once he gets, like anyone who picks up their dribble when they're just outside the restricted area, surrounded by trees, it should be a bad time. And with Jalen Brunson, it's everything's going according to plan. Exactly how I gamed it out.
got him exactly where I want him. 2 7-footers in front of me. I don't have a live dribble. Great. Here comes the layup. Yeah, and it's more impressive for him just because of the stature. Like, the league has caught up, like getting to a 2 foot plant, pivoting, and then taking off of the other foot, with these sort of little mini extra step you can get playing out of 2 feet now. That works better for guys that can really extend to the basket on step throughs, and that's not an option for him. So the fact that it works so well for him at his size is even more impressive, because it should be really hard for him to play that way. And he's still one of the best like post players we've ever seen. His feet are incredible.
Grant,
okay, give me one.
Name the NBA superpower Kawhi Leonard. Sponsorship agreements.
There's sponsorship agreements, just time management. He gets a lot of money for not doing things that he's supposed to do. So it used to be, maybe it still sort of is, just the claw of it all, just the hand strength and just forcibly taking the basketball away from people. To me now, he's defined by the laser beam jumper, which is, it feels like he has calculated the lowest possible trajectory of a basketball shot that can still go in. And he has it absolutely mastered. Like, there's no arc on it. It's almost just like, if you want to play up the like machine nature of his personality, it's like, this is how a machine would shoot it. There's just no margin for error. It's optimal if you can shoot it the exact same way every time and never deviate. But he has no arc on his jumpers, and they just free throws too. Even they're just like, they almost attack the back of the rim. There's no arc. It's like, I don't know anybody else. You might cite someone like Jordan. Like, Jordan didn't shoot with a lot of arc, and like, I can't think of anyone that shoots quite like that.
Oh, do you know who springs to mind there? Derrick Rose. He didn't shoot with a lot of arc, right?
He had a similarly like the ball was like forced into the basket, on his jumpers. It went in hard. So yeah, I think that's a good one. Not a lot of like pure swishes, just a lot of back rim and straight down. That's a good one. Okay, I want to give you.
Steph should try and only shoot line drives and see what his percentages end up being.
Probably pretty good. Probably still pretty good. Dan, what is what is Alperen Şengün's NBA superpower?
I honestly would say he has some shoulder stuff too, but I know you have a thought on this. It's the awkward timing. And you mean that as non-pejoratively.
It's a compliment. Like I said earlier, I think anybody that does things off time just has an advantage. And he does a lot of like, just his shot fakes are weirdly timed. He'll turn over the wrong shoulder type of, he's just like, I don't know if it's all timing. It's a combination of timing and just like willingness to shoot from strange angles. He just plays at a cadence that is weird. And that's a good thing. I don't know what kind of player he'd be with the shooting being what it is if he didn't have this odd. It's also weirdly mixed with like extreme physicality on offense. Like he just rams into people and then will shoot some weird, like fading wrong foot, arm, wrong shoulder type of thing. I mean, he's got to be like just a nightmare to play against because you just don't know where these shots coming from.
Grant, name me NBA superpower. Where did I go here? Did I give you a weird? Your last one was Kawhi, right? So it was a star. Let's give you a weird one. TJ McConnell.
To me, TJ McConnell. There's another. I mean, the backcourt steal. That's a good one for him.
That's Jose Alvarado's.
That's true. If you had to give it to anybody, that's the Grand Theft Alvarado. So McConnell, to me, the quickness of his pull up short jumpers is unrivaled. And it has to be because he doesn't have the size and doesn't create the separation to get off those types of shots. But he will be going at a dead run and pull up and go up as high as he can and shoot like a 9-foot jump shot off of 2 feet that is just going straight up. And it works because he does it. So he'll do it after like doing the Nash dribble on the baseline and then quickly turn around the direction he just came from and shoot a pull up. Super hard shots, and he's like the only guy I think that shoots those regularly. So that's a big one for him. Okay. Dan, what is Kevin Durant's NBA superpower?
I have no idea. Dismantling teams from the inside.
That's a pretty good one.
It's the Hezzy pull up. He brought Hezzy pull up jumbo into the mainstream. That's and like he could still do it. The dude that's insane. Oh, it's my turn for you. Grant, what is... Oh, here we go. Anthony Edwards' superpower.
He's a weird offensive player. I do think he's so strong that his ability to... Everybody kind of needs it, but he is so good at dead run, slow down, Euro, still has the strength to get up to finish. So I guess that's like the high degree of difficulty or like the high stress Euro step maybe, or something like some version of that where he's got
Euro step or something.
Yeah. He's got you don't want to throw that out there willy nilly. You never know.
Imagine Anthony Edwards gets drug tested immediately after this podcast.
He's like, that Euro step, you slowed down too well. What's going on here? I think it's that. He also can get off a 3 against a contest, like from anywhere at any time, which is not always a great shot, but it does matter sometimes. I still think it's the what he can do getting downhill and then slowing down and moving laterally. That's the thing. Like you have to have your legs have to be so strong to do that and like get any bounce off the floor at all. It's like unthinkable. Let's see. Do we have any more for you? Oh, I think this is your, Dan, what is Con Knippel's NBA superpower?
Is it weird to say screening? I was going to go with ghost screening, but he'll connect on his screen to where where he'll register as the roll man on certain possessions too. And so being able to do that as someone who's just kind of a wing, but then you're also going to be tasked with needing to hit these crazy shots off of those plays. It's sort of like supercharged Buddy Hield in Indiana when they used him for all those ghost screens, but like Con Knippel's way better than Buddy because he could do stuff off the dribble too.
Right.
First of all, to have a superpower as a rookie is pretty insane.
Well, and it's like, isn't his superpower just being one of the greatest shooters to ever enter the league? Also, like, he has more than one, and it all, like, the screening, his effectiveness as a screener is just it exists because of how he can shoot it. Like, anytime you have a great shooter, using them as a screener is just going to generate a good shot for somebody, because you can't mess around if you're defending any kind of switching or screening action that he's involved in. That's a good one.
Grant, name the NBA superpower for Giannis Antetokounmpo.
He's figured out how to take 7 steps with one dribble. That's pretty good. I mean, honestly, that really is something that he's made more effective than literally anyone else. Is the late, whatever we're calling the gather, where the ball is at rest, but it's like spinning in your hand, and you might dribble it again, but you've taken 4 steps while it's there. That's the huge reason he's so effective in transition. I think ultimately it's just the spin cycle dunk, where he will be going downhill incredibly fast. Everyone on the other team knows it's happening. And the second he feels pressure on one side, he spins to the other one, and it's a dunk. Often left-handed. He's got I would like to see the count of left-handed dunks he's gotten in his career. It's got to be more than right.
He also does it at different rotation speeds, right? Mm-hmm. To where it's like some of the spins look like they're in slow-mo, because they're like the quick gyrations, but there are the other ones where it's like, why is nobody stopping that? Because it's almost just, he's gradually making his way, like twirling around. It's more of a twirl. It's not so much of a spin as a twirl.
Did he hit the fading turnaround game winner against the Knicks early in his career, like right around the foul line? Do you remember that shot? I want to say that's
vaguely.
I want to say, and because I remember, because I was working that night, and I had to, my angle was like, it's over. If he has this, it's over. And I don't think he's ever shot that shot again in his whole life. And it's ironic. Like, the discourse was, oh my God, this guy has a fading turnaround jumper, therefore he's complete and unstoppable. And now it's like, no, he figured out you should just, unlike Bridges and Ayton, just go towards the basket and spin and then dunk. That's a lot. That's going to be a lot more lucrative for you. I'm never going to forget that, because it's just never been more wrong that shot actually mattered, except insofar as it was like, Giannis is here now. That was what that shot felt like at the time. Do we have any more?
Can we talk? I'm trying to think of top 10 players we missed, because that was the question. I know we probably didn't cover all of them, but can we talk this one through together? Because I have a suggestion.
Okay.
Cade Cunningham's probably been a top 10 player this year, right?
Yep. Well, no, he hasn't played 65 games, so his season didn't exist. Never happened.
Damn it, you're right. We should bestow that honor then upon to, how many games has Duren played in? That's the new top 10 player.
No, sorry, go ahead.
Is it, at this point, is his superpower like kind of the fadeaway jumper? Like, he can get to it, whether he's like coming from the 3-point arc, or if he's gonna seal in the post. I think that might be his superpower, and he shot really well on those looks this year. It just feels as if it should be something else, maybe. But I think for me, it's that fadeaway jumper and the readiness with which he can get to it now.
Yeah, and the need for it. Just because Detroit has a lot of possessions where the no easy shots materialize. He's, to me, he's the hardest really good player to say, like, this is his thing. This is the image of him in my mind. I do think it's probably that. Just the ability to hit a fade or turn around, or even just like a hard pull up that's contested. He does get some crazy blocks for a player in his position. You can't say that's like his superpower, though.
You know who also gets some crazy blocks for a player of his size?
Who's that?
Ask me about Reed Shepherd's superpower.
What's Reed Shepherd's superpower?
He gets good amount of blocks for a player that's his size, Grant.
We haven't talked about, let's say, Jokic. I mean,
oh my God.
Is it just vision? Is it his ability? Like his, that's not as like clean.
Yeah.
But
What would that even be? Because there's the Aaron Gordon pass, like the shot pass. There's the Sambor shuffle.
All the times the Sambor shuffle, all the times that he throws a pass literally over the back, over his, like, that he's never looked at the guy. Like, I don't know what you call that. I guess that's vision. Touch, like his incredible, like,
the floater.
What about stuff around the rim?
His 3-point shot, where it's like, come on, that thing gets cocked back and touched like the back of his shoulders, basically.
Yeah. I mean, you could even just go like his hands, because those go into all the touch, the like passing facility, all that stuff.
How about to always look like he just exited a war, but he's on his shoulders, but he's never actually bleeding. Like he just has all those scars, but they're never open wounds.
Yeah, interesting. Skin thickness of skin, maybe, is what we're talking about there. He has very thick
built
skin.
different, built differentness. Luka, what's Luka's superpower?
I mean, the step back going left, pretty defining for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got all the 2 foot stuff.
Have you seen his defensive rating over the Lakers' past 11 games? I think it's his one-on-one defense, sir.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay. I just got to trust the numbers. I'm not going to watch the tape. Donovan Mitchell.
Oh, the high pickup.
The over your head.
Yeah, that's like, I could watch that on a loop for the rest of my life, I think, because it doesn't make sense. Should it be a carry?
No, he doesn't put it back down. I think it's risky, because everybody else takes the ball down to their ankles through traffic and then comes up through arms. He goes over.
Grant, it's actually just super cool, and you're a loser. It's not risky. Okay. I don't know if our random players have been random enough, but Grant, what's Brandon Pajemski's superpower?
Coming to a 2 foot plant at a bad place on the court and picking up his dribble for no reason and pivoting 14 times before having to throw a bailout pass or a step through runner as the shot clock expires. That's a long superpower, but find me someone better. Find me someone better at it. You can't.
They'd be in the top 10 discussion if they weren't injured. What is Tyrese Halliburton's superpower? Probably the jump passes still,
The
right?
jump pass came to mind first. Yeah. I think he got a t-shirt made about how jump passes are cool now. So that has to
shout out Caitlin Cooper for that.
Shout out Caitlin Cooper.
And Jayson Tatum, what's his superpower?
I mean, for a minute there, it was the off arm thing to me. That like he had to walk so Shea could run with the off arm shove.
His superpower. I mean, he has the escape dribble 3 down pat.
Yeah, the extreme sidestep 3 too.
Yep.
He covers so much ground on that. That's a good one.
And the other thing, he's the one. Is he the only star in the league? I guess it's between him and Kevin Durant, where they just want to hoop. They want to play in every. And his superpowers, people, you won't mention load management or do players playing enough games, and you'll never mention Kevin Durant or Jayson Tatum.
Right.
And so that's got to be a Jayson Tatum superpower too.
I'm glad that because I've said more than once, half joking, that someone wanted it more than somebody else on this episode or previous episode. And I'm glad that you've now jumped into the cliche of bucket and just said he just wants to hoop. He's just a hooper, man.
I guess we don't consume typical. Let us know then, people. They wanted it more? Is that still analysis on sports radio or talk shows? I don't consume any of them anymore, really. It's all podcasts for me. That's like
it absolutely is. It absolutely. I mean, maybe not in so many words, but just like, I don't know, watch the NCAA tournament. And it's just like one team is playing its ass off and the other one doesn't seem to be. It's like, look at them out there. Look at them getting after it. They want that ball more. Those 50-50 balls are 90-10, like all that kind of thing.
We should do coaching superpowers. What's Joe Mazzulla's superpower?
The ability to compare any situation to life in the animal kingdom. Nobody's better. Nobody's better than Mazzulla.
He's definitely, and we've proved it with a segment, the coach whose quotes are most likely to be misattributed to Batman, right?
Mm-hmm. He has a lot of superpowers. Anybody else we haven't hit? I'm trying to think.
No, I think that's we've gone for almost 2.5 hours. So I don't know if you're ready. You can take us out of here.
I think everybody's ready. So
if anyone made it to the end, comment or below or get it, just let us know, because this might be our longest episode of all time.
Your superpower is listening stamina, if you've made it this far, and we appreciate you for it.
Your eardrums are built different.
So your eardrums wanted it more. Rate, review, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your enemies, join our Discord. Links for that in the YouTube and podcast description. Until next time, shouts, Frank Ntilikina, and apologies to Jared Allen.